advance screen. All right, so here's what we're doing today. So scripture to kind of set the tone for today, Proverbs 24:27. Do your planning and prepare your fields before building your house. So what that means is before you build something, let's stop and think about it first. It doesn't necessarily mean you got to create a business plan or 5-year projections, but we do need to stop and think through kind of what we're doing, right? Jesus also told us before you always got to count the cost, right? And that's basically means let's stop and let's plan a little bit, right? So there's 8 things we're going to do today. The first thing we do is going to look at this concept called business category, where you're going to look at the relationship between profits and customers. The second thing we're going to look at is the actual business model. Now, this is the heart of the talk. The business model is an outline of a path from ideals to profits. Third thing we'll be looking at is pricing best practices, because if you price your product and services wrong, you could go out of business or you could be really unfulfilled with what you're doing. The fourth thing we're going to look at is a persuasion framework. The persuasion framework is the art of persuading somebody to buy what you're selling, right? Or to decide what you're selling is not for them. It's like a persuasion framework. After that, we'll jump into this thing called feedback and adjustment, because the business model we're going to be looking at, you'll need to make adjustments. This is not a static thing. This is a thing that you do over and over and over the course of business. Number 6, we're going to look at some do's and don'ts. There's like a few things that you should not do before you start making profits in business. I've seen a lot of people do a lot of stuff that's not related to sales before they get successful, right? So there's some do's and don'ts here. Well, really some don't do's, not even do's. Number 7, we're looking at setting some doable and measurable goals to actually get to the profit targets you're looking for with your business. And number 8, I'm going to give you the business model worksheet. There's a worksheet for you to kind of write out some stuff. Now, all these slides here, I'm going to save this as a PDF, and I'm going to email it to everybody out when I do the replay. So I got a hand raised. Go ahead. Was that a hand raise or just a wave?
That was my question. You just answered the question, so I put my hand down. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. All righty. So, yep. So all this stuff will be, there'll be recording of this, plus there'll be a PDF of the slides. So you have everything you need. So basically what that means is when you guys are taking notes, you don't have to copy down stuff word for word. Just write down the revelation points, right? All right. So before we get into the first thing called the business category, let me start by telling you why I think I'm credible to kind of teach you this stuff. So when I was graduating from graduate school with my PhD, it was in technology. It was not in business. So I was 28 years old. I had just graduated with my PhD, and I was like, what am I gonna do for the rest of my life? Right? I've conquered the goal that I want to conquer since I was probably 15. There's no more academics I could do. And then so what God placed in my heart was ideal. Can you conquer the business mountain, right? You've already conquered the academic mountain. Can you conquer the business mountain? So what I proceeded to do from the time I was 28, I proceeded to start a lot of different types of businesses because of my background as a researcher. It's like really a lot of small experimentations. I experimented with, pitching money for funds. I experiment with work with partners. A group of my partners, we actually got a $150,000 grant from the National Science Foundation to do some work. So I experiment with stuff like that. It's interesting when you actually have money, when you talk to people, and they say, hey, we just got $150,000 to do something. It's amazing how many doors open. They want to talk to you. I started a self-publishing company. I also did some consulting in terms of web technology and building web apps. And I've even worked on a service called Baby Birth Call, where we would let parents do like a call blast service for announcing their baby. And I've also probably talking to hundreds, if not thousands of entrepreneurs across the world. And I've just learned from their successes and learned from their mistakes. And I've interviewed a lot of successful business owners over the years. And I've taken a lot of secular business classes too, in this thing called the business model canvas, which is this concept that startups, instead of creating business plans, they should do a business model canvas instead. And so I've learned all the different philosophies in those particular areas as well. Plus just combine my own personal study of the word. So all this is kind of coming together in this one kind of workshop, basically. And so what I think, if you follow these steps, you will be successful in business, right? If you're diligently doing what I'm about to teach you now, you will be successful, right? And I'll leave it at that, and we'll talk more throughout the day. So first thing you want to talk about is your business category. And this is like, what category of business are you, right? And we're going to talk about this in terms of customers and profits. This first little pink thing over here, I don't know if you can see my little highlighter here. It says broke. Everybody say broke. This is where a lot of entrepreneurs are. They're broke. The reason they're broke is because they have a low number of customers and they have a low profit per customer. So let me give you an example of that. So say, for example, I want to make this water bottle by hand, for example, and I want to charge a customer $20 for this water bottle. However, this water bottle costs me $19 or so to make. So I may be making $1 per customer every time I sell this water bottle, right? So which means that if I only have 5 customers every month, I'm only making $5 a month, right? So I got a low number of customers and I got a low profit per customer. And a lot of entrepreneurs, they're in that scenario where they got a very few number of customers and the profit they make per customer is really, really low, right? And I call that broke. Like, you actually may be busy, but you'll be broke because you're not charging enough money for the amount of customers you actually have. The next category I call is close to cash. Now, this ideally is the space where I think most entrepreneurs probably should start at. If they just first get into business, they've never done business before. I like this close to cash category, this green box right here. In this close to cash category, this is characterized by, you still have a low number of customers, but you're charging a whole bunch per customer, right? And so an example of this could be somebody who's a electrician, for example. They have an electrician business, and every time they go see a customer, they charge like $1,000, $2,000 to do something. So you only need about 3 or 4 customers a month to be successful, to even have a 6-figure business, right? So you got a small number of customers, but you got a high profit per customer, right? And I call that close to cash. The reason I call that close to cash is because you don't have to spend a whole bunch of time waiting for somebody to pay you. I worked for Lockheed Martin on their contract one time through the federal government, and it took them almost 6 to 9 months to pay me one time, right? So they owed me thousands of dollars, but because I was working with a large company who was working through the government, they really dragged their feet with payment, right? And so even though I had a lot of money owed to me, it wasn't really close to cash because it took a while to get the payments, right? So this is what I call close to cash. The next category, the type of business, is this thing I call Apple, right? We all know what Apple is. So Apple has a high number of customers and they have a high price per customer, right? I don't know if you ever bought a MacBook or iMac. Those things are expensive, right? Mac products are notorious for being the most expensive product in the marketplace, right? So they got a lot of customers and they make a lot of money per customer, right? And I call that Apple. The next business type, let's call it Walmart. So Walmart has a high number of customers, but it got a low profit per customer, right? So which means that their items in their store are really, really inexpensive, but that's okay because they make up on it on volume, right? So if we go back over these 4 categories, we see this balance between how many customers you have and how much you're charging each customer, how much money you're making per customer. If you're in the broke category, that means you got a low number of customers and you got a low profit per customer, right? And unfortunately, a lot of entrepreneurs in that category, right? And that's why they're frustrated. So what I want you guys to do is to intentionally think about what category you actually want to be in. Do you want to be in the close to cash category? You want to be in the Apple category, or you want to be in the Walmart category, right? Now, if you're in the Apple or Walmart category, I want you just to realize that those 2 categories, they will make a lot of money, but it'll take a while for that type of business to build up to make money. Does that make sense? So which means that if you had a close to cash business, you can start making money next week, But if you had an Apple or Walmart type of business, it might take you 18 months to 2 years before you see any profits, because it just takes a while to build up those types of businesses. All right. And a reason we're building is because we really got a high number of customers really hit your target goals there. So let's pause right there. Let's see if we got any questions about these categories. And let me hear from you guys, which one of these categories you think you might want to be in. And what I'll do is I'll just stop screen sharing for a second so everybody can see each other. Let's have a quick little conversation about this. So go ahead, Arlene.
I like the close to cash, you said it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one. So I don't know, I kind of think like real estate's like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, it's like a project and then it ends and you get paid and you don't wait a long time to get paid.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of close to cash, but it still could take a while, right? Depends on how long the lead time is on it, but it's really good close to cash.
Yeah, it's usually like,
yeah.
It's not on the spot. So yeah, it usually takes at least 30 days.
Yeah, but that's
sometimes
pretty close.
Less.
Yeah. Now, if you're flipping a house, that may be a little bit longer, right?
Right. Yes, that could take a little longer. Yes.
Yeah, so that might start hitting like Apple when you're talking about flipping a house. So.
But what kind of businesses then can you do like for the close to cash? Like I know you use the plumber, like they go on site, they fix something, they get paid, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's like an independent then, not you're working through a company, you're working for yourself, of course.
Yeah, like coaches, consultants, those types of people, they're really close to cash type businesses.
So like for me, so I'm a realtor, but also I get a lot of agents wanting me to help them with things. Like yesterday I had a call from someone. She's just like, can you just help me with knowing what I'm supposed to have on the checklist for this type of, sale. She's listing something. She didn't know what she was supposed to do. Now I've been caught off guard a few times already with like people saying, well, I'll pay you, but I don't even know what to charge them.
Yeah.
Like I've been like, oh my gosh, I got to get this together because I am like caught off guard. And so I end up saying it's okay.
Yeah. So when you're helping other realtors, that's a close to cash type business where you could charge $400 or $500 for your support, depending on what you're doing for them per transaction. Okay. Yeah.
So I really need prayer on like making a price list of different types of requests that they come at me with. Yeah.
Yep. And that'll be a good example of close to cash, right?
Yes.
You don't need that many clients because you're charging them a significant amount of money, and you can make thousands of dollars a month, right? Thousands. Yeah.
Yes.
I see a lot of people dropped in the chat close to cash as their kind of business type. So I'll see one Walmart in the chat there. Go ahead, Alejandra. What do you think about yours? Where would you want to be?
Well, I'm switching. So what I'm thinking right now is, kind of like course creator, somebody that creates courses that I'm thinking close to cash, but I'm also thinking, could that turn eventually into an Apple?
Because, yeah, that could turn into Apple. That could turn into Apple, definitely.
Because I'm thinking you make the course once, unless it's a technical thing that it keeps changing, that you have to keep updating. Yeah. But you can pretty much repurpose that information over and over and get more and more customers.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking close to cash, for patterns and courses, how to, but eventually turn into an Apple.
So even though that feels close to cash, that's probably like Apple from the beginning, because just because you create a course, it may take a while for you to get people interested enough to actually buy the course, right?
Yes.
So for those people who want to be course creators, that works after they've already built up some type of goodwill to the people they're selling it to. So even though it feels like close to cash, it'll be more like an Apple because it takes a little bit more time for you to start making money from it.
Okay.
When you do make money from it, you make a whole bunch, right?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Thanks, Alejandra. Go ahead, Keisha. You want to share your thoughts on this?
Hi, everyone.
How you doing, Keisha? That's the little one?
Yes.
Is it her or he? He, okay.
Say hello.
Cool. Get to see Keisha.
Getting so big.
Yeah.
So I think I'm close to cash because but I still don't know if my pricings is right.
Okay, so you might be broke then.
A little bit, but when I do get customer, it's not bad because my pricing for my I do the service and I sell the products. I think I'm more having a problem on my products because my service, I could get one client and it's literally cost me almost nothing to, when I count it out, I could literally use one customer and buy back a whole bag of stuff that I could use for like months.
Okay.
But that's working out. But for the product part, my product that I sell, I think those are where I'm struggling. Like I'm broke with that part.
Yeah.
So with the service part, but it's just that I'm like still low on customer because I'm not like good at getting customers to come in.
Yeah. So that's where you get in that broke category, right? Where like you don't have that many customers, you may not be making that much money per customer, and you still may be doing work for the few you have. And it'll be like spin your wheels. So, so the goal right now is not for you guys to kind of make some big decision. I want you to just start thinking about these categories and start being intentional about the type of business you're building, right? I give this example and Candace, you're going to be next. So go ahead and start unmute. I want you guys to be intentional because when I talk, say for example, when I talk to business coaches, I ask them intentionally, or do you want to have a product that costs a little bit of money or have a product that costs a whole bunch of money? Because if you have a product that costs a little bit of money, then you need a whole bunch of customers. You need to be like Walmart, right? But if you have a product that costs a lot of money, you only need a few customers, then you're not kind of close to cash, right? So it's all about determining where you want to be at and intentionally going and doing that. So that's really the goal, is being intentional. A lot of entrepreneurs, we're not intentional in this area. We just kind of stumble into something. So I want you guys to kind of be more intentional about that. Go ahead, Ms. Kemp. You want to jump in? Candace Kemp, get your hand up. Still on mute. Did I say her name right? Candice Kemp? Okay, maybe not. All right, guys. So anybody else want to share any thoughts on this before we move on to the business model? So remember, the goal here is to be intentional about where you want to be and think through this. All right, so let's go ahead and go back to the share mode here. All right, guys, I'm back to sharing. You guys should see my screen again. And we're just kind of wrapping up this section on the business category. Broke, we don't want to be there. Close to cash, it's a good starting point for most people. Apple, Walmart, really good businesses, but they have different goals. Apple will probably be worth more than a Walmart because they got way more customers and they got high price per customer, right? And Walmart makes a lot of money too, but they're making them strictly on volume. They got probably millions and not billions of customers buying stuff, right? All righty, let's look at the business model. So what I'm about to talk to you about now, this business model, it has three things. So when I say business model, you can think of this as your business plan if you want to. You can call it your business plan if you want to call it this, and you won't put in that terminology. I don't call it such, but it's a better version of a business plan, I think. All right, so you want to start with your concept. Basically, like, what are you doing? Right? Just intentionally right now, what are you actually doing? Then you want to look at marketing. How are people going to know what you're doing? Right? That's really what marketing is all about. And then you want to look at sales. How are you going to convince people to buy what you're doing? Right? So your business model have these three top categories of your concept, marketing, and sales. Right? These are going to be the three categories. So now let's look at the first category, the concept category. So under the concept category, there are going to be four things you need to determine. The first thing is, what's the hidden problem someone is having? Now, I use this word hidden intentionally because if you're thinking about, let's look at the cosmetic industry, right? Or the perfume industry. What are they actually really selling, right? Are they selling stuff to put on your face to paint it? Are they selling chemicals put in your body, right? So what is this company really selling? So in the cosmetics business, the hidden problem they're selling is that people want to feel beautiful, right? That's really what they're selling. They're selling beauty, right? And so if you look at any commercial from a cosmetic company, it's some attractive lady walking and a lot of guys looking at her probably, right? So it's ideal that if you wear this thing, you smell like this, you'll get a lot of attention, usually, right? And so the problem that they're selling is that not that people want to paint their face, but people want to feel a certain way. So whatever problem your business is trying to go after, I want you to go deeper into the model. Like, what do people really, really want? Why are people really, really here, right? You know, so if you look at, like, say, the network marketing space, they really do a good job of targeting that real problem that people have. No matter what network marketing company you work with, the problem they're really solving is that people want extra money, right? No matter, you put any name on any network marketing company, it's really that people really want to make extra money. They're living paycheck to paycheck, and these network marketing companies, they're trying to solve that problem of getting you out of your financial rut to get you to be financially successful. That's really the problem they're selling. They're not selling, but the problem they're trying to fix. Now, once you kind of know what problem you're solving, the next question is, what is your solution to that problem, right? And I want you to have a very focused solution, right? I don't want you to have solutions that, like, kind of, well, I'm helping people feel better, so I'm going to offer them weight loss. I'm going to offer them makeup products. I'm going to offer them self-help advice, right? So I want you to be more focused in that, right? Especially because, remember, we're talking about we're doing business for the first time. We're just getting started, and we don't, you know, and I don't want you to come out with a whole bunch of product lines, right? We want to really stay really focused when you first get started, right? So once you identify the problem that you're solving, you want to say to yourself, okay, what's my very focused and narrow solution to do this problem, to fix this problem, all right? The fourth thing is, who's your customer? And they got to have two characteristics. They got to be able and willing to pay to solve that problem, right? Able and willing, right? So what does that mean? So I'm looking outside. You may hear the grass mower going right now. Somebody's cutting somebody's grass. Now, there are people out there that want their grass cut, but they're not able to pay for it, or they're not willing to have it paid for, right? Even though they want their grass cut, they just can't afford it, or they don't want somebody else to do it, right? So what you're doing with your products and your services, you're trying to find that customer who's able to pay for my solution and who actually want to pay for it. Those are two totally different things. There are people that have money that just don't want to pay for that solution, right? So you got to really find that customer who's able to pay and really want to pay to have that problem solved. Like, who is that person, right? And then the fourth part of the concept is, how much are you charging to solve that problem, right? What price point are you putting on that to solve that? And so these are intentionally written as questions. So these are questions you have to answer before you get started. What's your problem? What's your solution? Who is your customer? How much you're charging, right? So really, you're writing out the answers to these particular questions. And this is going to form the basic concept of your business, right? You just look at it on paper. It's almost like the Bible says, write the vision and make it plain so they can run and read it, right in Habakkuk. This is kind of where you're writing out the vision. Okay, here's the problem we're solving. Here's the solution we're offering. Here's the customer we're going to sell it to, and here's how much we're selling it for. Very straightforward, very simple, and it'll keep you focused on what you're doing, right? Let's go on to the marketing side of the model. Now, this side of the model is really what people try to focus on first, but I think this is the second thing you need to focus on, right? First, you want to focus on the concept, then you talk about marketing, right? Because if you jump to marketing too fast, you're marketing the wrong thing, right? So marketing has three parts I want you to ask yourself about your project. The first one is attract. What are you going to do? What are you going to give away to potential customers, to attract potential customers, right? Because in order to attract customers to your business, usually you got to give something first. it's a law of seed, time, and harvest that the Bible talks about. So with your business, what type of giveaways are you employing to draw people into your system? If you think about Google, before Google had AdSense, they gave away almost everything, right? Had free search. You guys got free Gmail, right? Free calendars, right? Free drives, right? There's so much stuff Google gives away for free that's attracted us into their ecosystem. And so when they want us to pay for something, we're ready to pay because they're sown so much seed in us for free, right? So what are you going to do to attract people into your business, right? Is it a free donut of the month, right? Is it a free recipe, right? What can we do to attract people into our space? The next thing is nurture. So once you attract somebody into your space, what's your process of warming up your potential customers, right? So I give this example a lot of like, Arlene, you're single, right? Arlene, unmute for me. I'm gonna ask you a question.
Yes.
All right, so Arlene is single. Let's say you met a guy, his name was John, right, Arlene?
Okay.
And John comes up to you, like you've never met him before, right? And John says, Arlene, will you marry me? What would you tell him?
No.
No. Why would you say no, Arlene?
Well, I've never met him. I don't know who he is. I don't know what he's about. I don't know what his, beliefs are. My deal breakers, I have to ask him questions.
Exactly, right? So that's just like business, right? So when your business approaches a potential client, if they have no knowledge about your business, you ask them to buy something that's too fast, right? That's like almost like asking, will you marry me, right? So Arlene, what John needs to do first is probably just introduce you, say, hey, I'm John, right? And here's what I do for a living, right? Here's some of my thoughts on life. He like introduced himself to you and he warms up Arlene, right? And then maybe a couple of weeks later, hey, Arlene, let's go on a date, right? And say, Arlene said, sure, let's go out. And eventually he said, hey, why don't you come meet the family? So sure. Then eventually at some point in time, Arlene, will you marry me? And then Arlene probably might say what after a while?
Might say yes.
Might say yes, right? So basically what John is doing is he's warming up Arlene before he goes in for the ask, right? And so thanks, Arlene. You go ahead and put yourself on mute. Thanks for being an example here. So once you attract somebody into your system, you got to go through some process of warming up your customers before you ask them to buy something, right? A lot of businesses go in for the sale too fast, right? All right, so the next thing is referral. How are you going to encourage people to tell others, right? So having people buy your products and services is great, but having other people tell other people about your product and service even better. So the question is, how are you going to intentionally encourage people to tell others? All right, and let's go on to the third part here. I got a scratch here. All right, so the third part here is the sales process. So in the sales process, what you want to do is you're trying to persuade people with words to buy something, right? That's the first part of the sales process. The second part of the sales model is how are you going to get the people that's already bought one time to come back and buy again, right? So those are two questions you got to answer in your sales part of the model. So let's do a recap real quick here. So this business model or your business plan has three parts to it, right? Now this seems real simple, but most people don't want to take the time to actually do this, right? So first thing, what's your concept? What's the problem? What's the solution? Who's the customer? How much does it charge? How much you charge, right? Just write this stuff out. Marketing, how are you going to attract people to your business? What are you going to give away for free to attract them into your system? Once you attract them into your system, what are you going to do to warm them up to the possibility of buying from you? And then third, how are you going to get those customers to tell other people to come see you, check you out, right? Sales, what words are you using to persuade somebody to buy what you're doing? And repeat, how are you going to get people to buy again, right? So what I'm showing you here is a very simple model that if you just answer these questions, it'll basically start to outline your path to profit, right? Without the complexity of a large business plan. So let's pause right here and let's take some questions, get some thoughts on this. Go ahead, Arlene.
Okay, so I'm thinking like what I was saying earlier about when people approach me and ask me for information. So I shouldn't feel bad then about giving the first information for free.
Yeah.
But then if they come back, is that when I should approach them, or should I mention it, give it for free and mention it at that time that going forward, if you need help, you know, at that time, offer my service?
Yes. Yes. So if they come back again, so it has to be clear that you're in business to do this first, right?
Okay.
So it's not like just a friend helping a friend, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. And these are strangers, actually. The lady who called me yesterday, I don't know her at all. She was actually referred to me by an agent who does use me as a transaction coordinator.
Okay.
So he consistently gives me business, and he's actually a really good referral source. He's referred me to different people, quite a few different people. So so if you're being referred, then I should still give something free, and then
well, it depends. It depends. So that first initial conversation is probably the free thing.
Okay.
Right. Then after that, it got to be clear how to pay for something later. Because you've already gone through so once somebody refers you to you, you've kind of already skipped the warm-up stage a little bit.
Okay.
Right. That's like me saying, Arlene, that guy John, he's a really good guy. You should give him a shot. Right.
Right.
So he's already kind of bypassed some barriers already just because I'm recommending to you. Right.
Yes.
So if you're getting a referral, that for your business, Arlene, it sounds like that initial consultation is the free part of it, where you kind of give them value in that first conversation. And if they want to go further, you offer them something for sale going further.
Okay. Thank you.
Good stuff. Alejandra, go ahead.
Okay. So maybe I'm thinking ahead. I don't know. I just go straight into the how. That's just how I am. So I'm thinking, okay, when we say answer these questions, kind of like a general idea of what we think we want to do. Because I mean, I don't know exactly how I'm going to do this.
Yes, we're not worrying about the how the mechanics of it, but we want to say, what do you want to actually do? Right. So you write down, okay, well, what am I solving? How am I doing it? How much am I charging? How do I want to market it? So you're writing down the big picture, what you want to do. Right. And then we'll get into the details, how that's going to all happen. But you want to get on paper the big overview, the goal of what you're trying to do.
Okay. Yeah, because I went straight into like, when I look at the marketing and sales, I'm thinking, well, I have to keep doing all these steps constantly, because I may be talking to somebody who has never met me, but then I may be talking to someone who has a referral. So I may be talking to someone who's already bought from me. So it's like the language, like you can't just focus on one thing, right? You have to focus on all.
Well, it depends on where you are. You'll know when. So like a referral conversation is different than a warm-up conversation, right? But when you write it out on paper, you know what you're doing though. So it takes away the like waking up in the morning, don't know what to do. So no, let me go back to the plan. This is what we're doing. Okay. Attraction, we're doing this. Referrals, we're doing this, right? But referrals referring more to like, how do you get people to do that? Because once somebody is being referred and it comes to you, now it's a sales conversation.
Okay. So, that's good. So it's kind of like having, an idea in your head of what are you going to how you're going to implement it. Yeah. Okay.
So I want you guys out here, remember what we're doing is we're literally just writing down on paper or typing it out what we're going to do. Don't worry about how it's all going to happen. We want to have a clear understanding of really what are you doing, right? Go ahead, Keisha. She's like she's frozen. or mute. Go ahead. I can't hear you, Keisha.
I said I was just gonna lower my hand because Alejandra pretty much talked about what I really was being bothersome to me, because I was just thinking about the how, like she said, and I was pretty much like, it's not like I don't get customer, is how do I reach back out to these customers? Because I do got great reviews, I do got great stuff like that. So how do I retain these customers? How do I keep them coming back? And how do I reward the one that refers? So it was just, for me, it was straight how as well. And how can I do that?
All right, so here where Keisha's saying here. So remember, you guys are, let's go back to the model here one more time. Let's talk about, hold on, let me hit share one more time. Share screen. All right, guys, let's go back to the model real quick. So what I want you guys to do with these things is literally to write out. So don't think about your current problems you're dealing with your business. Let's take a step back. Because like right now, I think Keisha and Alejandra, y'all thinking too much into the trees of what you're currently doing, right? So let's zoom out a little bit and let's go back in and let's write it out in order, in steps, right? What are you doing? How are you going to do it with a solution? Who's your customer? What's your price? Don't worry about what's going on currently in business, who you got to call with tomorrow, but just think about, okay, what problem, Alejandra, what problem I'm serving? Keisha, what's your solution? Keisha, what's your customer? Keisha, what's your price? Let's just write that out, right? Let's just write that out on paper, right? Let's just get it out there, right? Then let's go to marketing. Okay, marketing. How am I intentionally attracting people to my business? Let's just write that out, right? Let's not worry about what marketing campaign we're using and is it MailChimp? Let's not worry about all that. But just in general, what are you doing, right? Like, is it free samples? Is it ebook? Is it, like, what are you doing in general to attract people to your thing, right? Then nurture. When people come to you, what are you doing to warm them up before you ask them for the sale, right? Referrals. How are you intentionally getting people to refer you? So that's what referral piece of the puzzle talks about. So basically, your current customers, how are you turning them into your marketing team, right? So a lot of people don't intentionally give their current customers like marching orders to go tell other people, right? So like when you got a satisfied customer, how are you incentivizing them to go tell other people? You know, when I used to run a book publishing company, when I published somebody's book, I would say, hey, if you refer something, I'll give you $50, right? Or I give you $100, right? And so that was like my intentional way of getting people to go out there and refer people to me, right? And then when you get into the sales part of the house, what words are you using to persuade somebody? And we're going to talk deeper about persuasion later in the talk today, right? And then on repeat, what are you doing intentionally to get people to come back to your business and buy more stuff? Right? So what I want you guys to do is, remember, the goal here is we're going to zoom out, not think about the current problems we're having in our business, and let's start over in our minds, and let's write this out clearly and neatly, right? And once you kind of write this out clearly and neatly, then we'll go back and see what do we need to adjust or change about what we're currently doing. That makes sense? All right, other questions or comments about this before we take a quick little break? You got another question? Alejandra, your hand's still up, Alejandra. Go ahead. It says Nicole. Nicole? I can't hear your audio, Nicole.
Can you hear my audio now?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay. Thanks for hosting this.
You're welcome.
What I want to do is I want to build a ministry and to fund this, offer coaching.
Okay.
Around the same kind of topics. Just in the ministry, I would offer courses and like sermon series and group coaching, and on the side I would offer individual coaching for charge. And what I'm wondering about is as soon as we create sales pages and talk about our services and products, God gets less airtime. And how do you handle that? I mean, you talk about this in your Clarity Academy, that we should strictly distinguish between a ministry and a business and separate that and not try to intermingle that. How do we deal with that to give God airtime, but at the same time let our products and services shine in,
Yeah, so for people who I like people to either be in ministry or business. It makes it simpler. But when you try to kind of play in that middle space a little bit, it gets a little more complex. Because you're right. The moment you go into the sales funnel, sales type of thing, you know, God kind of comes down a little bit, because now you got to go into a business mindset of you got to push the coaching and the courses and the classes, right? So you kind of got to be okay with that if that's the way you want to go, right? Because you will kind of, you know, God will kind of get downplayed a little bit, right? Is somebody getting audio feedback? Is that just me?
Yeah, I'm hearing it too.
You hearing it too? Okay. All right. So for my suggestion, Nicole, is to, let me see how I suggest this. Are you okay with God being downplayed a little bit when you start having selling conversations?
If God is okay with that.
Are you okay with, not God, are you okay? That's the question.
As a new believer, I'm still growing in my faith, and I think that I'm not godly or Christian enough if I'm downplaying God on my sales pages. That's right now I'm having a little problem with that. Yeah.
What? So did God give you the model to do this with coaching? With this, how to, like, for me, when I first got started, God called me to work with Christian entrepreneurs, and I did kind of what you did. I would kind of preach, but then I would try to have people have a sales conversation with me. And I did that for 4 years, and it didn't really work that well. Because one, I kept getting confused myself, like what I was doing. So 4 years later, God kind of dropped in my spirit that he said, I call you to be a pastor to entrepreneurs, not a coach to entrepreneurs. Right. And so once he kind of made that clarification, it makes things flow better for me. Right. Once I got clear on that, because like when I first got started, it was like, okay, I'm working with Christian entrepreneurs. I'm teaching guys biblical principles, and now hire me to help you do it more.
Okay.
Right.
I think it's the other way around with me. I've tried to drop coaching several times, but it keeps coming back to me. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
There are some business coaches out there who are believers that's called to be in the coaching space and to coach people with biblical principles. Right. They don't necessarily consider themselves ministers of the gospels, but they know the word and they bring their whole Christian self to their actual business. So this is where the mind shift had to come in for you. If God has called you to be in business, right, and he's called you to coach other people to be in business using his principles, you just have to be okay with that, right? And that's a perfectly legitimate thing to do. So I have a sister organization. It's called Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur, and that's exactly what they do, right? So like Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur and Church Entrepreneurs, we kind of was getting started at the same time, and God had me go into a ministerial direction, and God had them go into a business direction, right? So which means God was anointing and blessing both paths, right? Mm-hmm. And so sometimes when me and the Shaban, she's over Kingdom Entrepreneur, when we talk, sometimes like when she gives me a suggestion, I try it doesn't really work. And then I give her a suggestion from my ministry side, she tried it doesn't really work. And the reason it doesn't work sometimes is that I'm taking one of her business things and trying to put it into a ministry context. She's taking one of my ministry things and trying to put it in a business context. And so we've learned how to have these conversations, realize even though we're serving the same demographics, God had us going at it from two different directions, right?
And I think that makes it particularly hard because I'm also wondering about that, and I've asked you that before. How do we coach biblically in the sense that we do not give the answers that should come from God, but how do we connect people with God, and how is biblical or Christian coaching different from worldly coaching? And I think I find that really tricky because, as you've shared right now, what works for me must not work for you. Yeah.
Yes. So I think just my understanding of coaching, there's a scripture in Proverbs said, counsel in the heart of man is like deep water, but a man of understanding will draw it out. So I have this belief that everybody has the answer inside of them. And somebody like you, Nicole, I think your job is to kind of pull that out of them. You know, not necessarily tell them what to do, but to help them discover what God has in them and pull it out of them. Right now, unless you're coaching somebody how to do Facebook marketing, that's pretty much straightforward. Like, hey, you do this, you do this, you do this. But if you're talking about helping somebody discover what they're called to do, discover how they're supposed to run their business, then that information is kind of unique and personal to them. So you as their coach, you're probably guiding them through a process to pull out what God's placed inside their heart. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. But when it comes to marketing, getting back to the topic and sales, what I would like to do is actually doing letting the educational content that is free doing the heavy lifting of the marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what you're doing. So your educational content is free. It's attracting people into your system. And once they get into the system, they get more of your content, which means you're warming people up. And then you're ready to ask for the sale. Mm-hmm. So the key thing you got to be clear about is you got to make sure that the people are coming in with the right mindset, right? So when they come into Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur, they're coming in knowing that this is a business that does this, right? And so they're not shocked when there's something for sale. So if somebody comes into a church setting, then they may get shocked. Wait, you charge me now? Because they came in with the wrong mindset, right? So it's all about how you create the mindset as you attract people into your system, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But it definitely can be done. I mean, the way you're doing it is basically the tried and true way of doing it. Provide value for free with content, bring them into the system, give them more content, warm them up, ask for the sale. But the key though, because you're in this weird space that feels like ministry, you got to be clear up front that what you're doing this from a coaching perspective and not a ministry perspective. So that way they're not shocked when the buying conversation starts.
Okay. I still have to figure that out. I have no experience in this ministry business intermingling. I'm new in that.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to worry about figuring it all out. Like I say, I've been doing this probably 11 years now, right? And so for the first 4 years, I still was just stumbling around trying to figure this whole thing out, right? It just takes time to understand the space that God's calling us in. And there's no shame in that. It's just a learning process to go through this whole process.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And to figure that out with the mic. Okay, thank you.
Good stuff, Nicole. And if we need to talk more about this one-on-one later, we can, especially since you're in this unique space. All right, guys. Other questions before we take a quick little break here before we move on. So remember what we're just doing is going through the business model now is where we just kind of write this stuff out and we just kind of put it on paper. Okay. There's no questions. Let's go ahead and roll in. Go ahead. Who's that?
Pastor Amos. Good morning.
Go ahead, Amy.
Okay, how are you? I have a question. Sorry for the noise in the background voice. Okay, so in reference to us, to the business model, I think that's what it is. But the problem, ever since I launched my book in April, right? I've been getting a lot of people come to me like they read the book, they see the book or whatever have you, and they like it, and they're like, how you did it? And I'm like, oh, I self-published. It took a very, very long time, but I self-published.
Yeah.
And it's like they're coming to me for help, and they want me to help them. They want me to, like, you know, guide them. But truthfully, that is not my thing. I never envisioned myself writing a book to begin with.
Okay.
And to see me having to have people come to me for advice and asking to help them walk through the process and all that stuff, I'm like, I'm shunning it, right? But at the same time, I'm wondering if, like, that's what God is wanting me to do. But for me personally, I don't see myself doing it. And they're like, I'm willing to pay, I will pay. And I don't know, I don't want to do it, but my fear is, could this be God, you know, paving a way for me? And I'm like,
okay,
you know,
okay,
avoiding it that kind of way. I don't know if you understand.
So,
because obviously there's a problem. These people, they want to write the book, right? But they need the help, and they can't afford the, like, you know, the publishing company and all that stuff. And a lot of people, they don't want to go through the hardship. They, like, literally want me to, okay, this is my idea, this is my vision. They give me point form, and they want me to, you know, write the book. That's the problem a lot of people are having, and they are coming to me, but I don't know.
Okay, so let's stop right there for a second, and let me tell you some red flags here, right? Now, if you don't treat this like a true business, you'll get frustrated and burn out at some point, right? Because you won't charge enough money for the work that's going to take place to do a project like that. Now, what you're describing is definitely a need. It's definitely problems that people have. People today even still want to get books published and out in the marketplace in a tangible form, right? And there are people that's called to create businesses to help people do that, right? However, what's happening is that people saw you do it, and they want to reach out to you and say, can you help me do it too, right? And this is the dangerous part of just hearing God here, right? Because if you're not called to do this, you helping them will pull you off path, right? So even though there's a need, which is a real need, the question is, God, am I called to solve that need?
Thank you.
Right.
I felt that, like, I know, okay, it's not me. It's not.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Yes. Just don't do it. Right. Refer them to somebody else and maybe get a referral fee referring to other. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm pretty sure somebody on here has a self-publishing company that can help. Right. Good stuff, Naheem. All right. Let's look at one more thing here before we take a quick little break. Let's look at pricing. So hit share. Let's share this again. Share screen. All right. All right, let's look at some pricing best practices. And so if we notice about the model, let's go back over here. Price was one of the concept parts of it, right? So let's look at pricing. All right, here's some things I want you to do. Remember, this whole thing is about, let's think like we're beginners. I know some of you guys have been in business a little bit and you're trying to refresh, but let's go back to the basics, right? First part, know the buying power of your customers, right? When Dave Ramsey is working with people to get out of debt, he knows they're below broke, right? Since he knows they're below broke, he's only charging like $100 to get out of debt, right? You can't charge them $2,000 because they're broke, right? So what you got to do is know the buying power of your customers, right? So it goes back to what type of business you want to be, right? So Dave Ramsey, he's in a Walmart-based business, which means he got a lot of customers. He's going to charge them a little bit of money, but he got like almost $100 million company doing that, right? So which means that you got to intentionally know what you're doing here, right? So if your customer base can't afford more than $30, $40 for your solution, that's all they got, right? And so you got to know that up front. What's the buying power of your customer, right? the next thing you need to understand, what's the marketplace, right? You know, Proverbs tells us, Ecclesiastes tells us, nothing new under the sun, right? Everything just a rehashment of an old ideal, right? Even Uber is just a rehashment of an old ideal, right? And so since there's nothing new under the sun, what you got to do is you have to know what the marketplace is charging with these solutions. Now, this is the part where I want to just warn you guys, like especially guys in the coaching business. You'll hear a lot of this conversation about charge your worth, right? Now, as believers, our value can't be monetized per se, which means that sometimes when people start charging their worth, they price themselves out of the marketplace, right? So you got to understand, what can the marketplace bear in this particular space? Now, if you're in the coaching space and you want to charge $100,000 a year for coaching, then you need to go back to who's your customer, right? So if you're primarily attracting people that only makes $30,000, $40,000 a year, they're not going to have $100,000 to pay for coaching, even though you may be worth it, right? So you have to understand who's your customer, what's the marketplace for this particular product and service, so you can price things appropriately, right? Another thing about pricing, maybe you need to create more of a specialized service, right? In healthcare, a heart doctor makes more money than a general practitioner, right? So if you can specialize your service in some kind of way, specialize your product in some kind of way, you can charge more money for what you're doing with a specialized service. And let's look at 4 more things here. Pricing best practices. This concept is called 2 + 1. So basically it costs me $20 to make this bottle. I need to multiply that number by 2. That makes $40. And now I need to add something on top of that to get profit. So I may charge $50 for this bottle now. So I took the cost to make the thing, multiply it by 2, and then I added something to it, and that's what the profit is. So if you're worrying about pricing, just take whatever it costs you to make the thing, multiply it by 2, and then add something on top of that. And that's how you can get your pricing. I call that a 2 + 1 pricing model. The next thing I want you to think about is, can you charge the value, not the utility of the product, right? So the utility of this water bottle is $10, but because I got some special labels on it, like Nike symbol or something, maybe it gives it more value, right? What is it actually worth to a person to have that problem solved? Not in terms of utility of it, but what's the actual value to them? So if you can charge on value, you'll usually make more money than charge on utility. The next thing I want you to think about is pricing tiers. Pricing tiers is used as ideal of what you want to do is have 3 separate prices. You have a price, hold on a second. Give me a second. My wife's thing popped up here. Okay, I'm back. All right, so pricing tiers, you have a base price, a stretch price, and I call it an outrageous price, right? So a base price is like, this product costs, just go back to my water bottle example, you can have one price at $10. You can have a stretch price at $30, and you have an outrageous price at $200, right? So 10, 30, 200. Now, what happens is when you price your products like that, where it's like a base price, a base model, a stretch, and then outrageous, when people see what you're offering, most people are going to want the outrageous price value, but they're not going to pay the outrageous price. So which means that they're going to drop down to the stretch price. So which means that if you price it with these 3 tiers, most people are going to get pushed into the stretch version. Like, man, I really like the $200 one, but let me settle for the $30 thing. They won't go to the base one, but they'll go down to the stretch price. So if you can price them in those types of tiers, you can really kind of drive people towards that middle price point. And the final thing here is I want you to check in God with the pricing, right? So even though I got all these ideals here, these practices, you still want to check in the Holy Spirit about what he wants you to charge for your product and service. So let's hit stop and let's take a quick little break here. And let's take any question about the pricing model, and then we'll take like a 5-minute break, just get up and stretch and relax a little bit. Everybody's good on the pricing part? All right, I see a hand up over there from Jahil. Am I saying it right? Jali? Go unmute. There we go. How you doing? I don't hear you guys' audio yet. Can you hear us? Oh. You guys still muted. Can you unmute? Hmm. Can't seem to hear you guys. Is it just me or my audio's not coming up? Can anybody hear them?
Can't hear them.
They're
Can't
very low.
Oh, maybe turn up the volume. Can you turn your volume some? Hello?
Can you hear us now? Can you hear us? No? Still can't hear us.
Yeah, I see it. Your mic is unmuted, but I'm not hearing anything coming up. Huh. Yeah, just drop the question in the chat. We can answer it.
I don't know what's wrong.
All right, so while they're trying to work their mic and drop the question in chat, anybody else want to ask a question about this price and stuff? I need just some ideas how to price your product and services. I'm checking the chat here, see if there's anything. So while you do that, can you bring back the last slide? Yes, I can. Share. This is the slide you were talking about, Kimberly? Okay. Yeah, this is the last slide here. And the slide before that was just on the buying power. Yeah. Here's the other slide. Hey, Jen, go ahead, Jen.
Can you hear me?
Look, your audio is breaking up something.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, that's much better. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I'm actually in the kitchen today and I'm talking through a mask, so I'm sorry. I was just gonna offer up that sometimes you may even be able to find like pricing modules for your specific industry. So like for me, I was able to find like a business, like a bakery, they had been in business for years. And so they offered up like a pricing class that you could take to help you price your products, you know, based off your recipes. Like you could put in everything that you use, you know, the amount, the ingredients and everything, what it costs. And then that helped you, you know, price what your profit would be, you know, how much you were spending, the percentages and everything. So that's a good way if you focus on your industry, like industry specific, there may be resources out there just specifically for your industry.
That's a good point, Jen. And a lot of times, Jen, in those industries like a baking industry or a crafting industry, a lot of people don't know how much they're spending to make their stuff, but they don't even know if they even make a profit or not. So I like that concept and stuff, Jen. Ms. Simone, go ahead.
Thank you. I had a question about the 2+1 method.
Yeah.
And sorry if I missed it. I had to drop off a little bit. But I'm wondering, what is the basis of that method? Because I know that sometimes you incorporate biblical principles into principles, and sometimes it's coming from grad school, sometimes coming from different experiences. So I'm just curious, what's the basis of that particular method?
That's just my experience. Because like, if you think about it, if you take this bottle, right? If this bottle takes $10 in materials to make it, right? And if you just sold it for $10, you don't make anything. Right. And you don't have any more money to go buy more materials to make another one either. right? So now if this costs $10 to make and I sold it for $15, now I've made $5, right?
Right.
So I got to put $10 back to cover the cost of what I've just spent. And now I got $5. But that $5 doesn't give me enough money to go back and buy more stuff to make another one, right? So if I sell this for $20, which is the ×2 part, $10 goes towards the material it took to make the thing. The other $10 go into buy more material to make another one.
Okay.
Right. But I still make no money yet.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So I say ×2 it plus something else, because the plus something else is where you get into your real profit.
I see. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, that's where it came from.
Thank you.
Deb, you have a question?
Hi, Pastor. Hi, everyone.
You and Deb, go ahead.
Yeah. You know, I just keep thinking about the pricing tiers, you know, in terms of the base, stretching, and outrageous, and how those tiers are directly related to the customer themselves, the ability to pay. And, you know, just keeping that in mind. And, you know, in my industry, it's the products that drive the price. So I don't have, you know, control over the price. And so I guess for me, it was like that very next concept that you had there regarding being able to charge on value versus utility. And that's the tough part of even attracting and even like marketing. Because it's like, if people don't see the value in it, they, you know, there's nothing I could do about the price, because it's based on them and their health and their, you know, their dreams, whatever it may be. So
let me ask you a question.
So
you can't control the price for what you're doing?
No,
Okay.
it's, because, you know, it's life insurance, or it's, you know, rolling over a 401k or something like that.
Okay. All right. So since you have no pricing control, you make money on commission, I guess, some kind of way. Okay. All right. So
we give all the education up front that people would charge, you know, $2,000 to $3,000 for a financial advisor.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I'm still just dealing with the concept, Pastor, to tell you the truth, of, you know, the problem. And you know, it's so cultural. It's like, you know, what I would say, you know, I'm helping, you know, broken down Christians or poor Christians, and whatever it may be. It's like, what does that really mean? What does poor mean? So it's, I'm even just trying to come up with the right words. And so you know, is my solution making people more profitable? Are they making them wealthy? Are they making them rich? And so I'm even just kind of dealing with that.
Yeah. So that's why it's really important to like go through the model piece by piece from the beginning. Because if you don't know what you're really doing, everything else is on sand, right? You know how Jesus said, like, you build your house on a rock, you build your house on sand, right? So if you build your house on the sand, then, which means you don't know what the problem really is, you'll always be wavering back and forth. You won't really know what you're doing.
So I don't know if it's what we, you know, financial illiteracy.
Well,
is that what the problem is?
Financial literacy is not the problem usually, right? Usually there's some other deeper problem. There's something they want and they don't have. And what you're saying,
access to it?
Literacy, huh?
Is it access to financial education?
No. So the education may be your actual solution, but there's still another problem you're actually solving, right? So the question is, what's the real problem your customers are having? Is it a lack of money, a lack of happiness, what are they lacking? Because they're not waking up, oh, I just need financial literacy. No, because what you're doing is that's a prescription, right? It's not like you go to the doctor, you just got a pain, right? I mean, doctor, I hurt here, I hurt there. And then he'll say, okay, that's okay. Let me tell you what the prescription is. So in my mind, financial literacy is just a prescription to something that's painted.
That's a good point. Yeah, I like that. I see that.
Yeah.
So what are they lacking?
Yeah, what are they really lacking? Yeah. So that's why it's critical, everybody, to go back to that foundation problem. What are you really solving? What's the lack that people really have? What are you looking for? And Deb, since you can't control pricing, then you kind of got to take that off the table. And you're probably going to a business that looks more like Walmart, where you just got to get a whole bunch of customers, and then you'll get a percentage of those customers. And that's how you'll probably build wealth yourself personally. Because go ahead.
Although people who are higher end that have retirement accounts and companies that I could work with that I could provide the retirement benefits for, the 401k for, I would probably only need a Christian Brothers Automotive, one client, and would make a lot of money. So it depends on the product.
That'll be a different business then, right? So we're having our house renovated, right? Not renovated, but basement. That's why I'm not in my real office. So the person that's doing it, they charged me a number, and I didn't question the number. I trusted them, right? And even they're overcharging me, I'm okay with paying that because I trust they can get the job done, right? So for you, Deborah, in this financial industry, you may be more expensive than other people, but if they trust you to put the money in the right places, they'll pay the more for what you're doing. They'll pay more for you.
Okay. So I'm really in part of my business model, when we're talking about value, the value right there would be the trust factor.
Yeah. And so that was a conversation I had with my contractor. I said, dude, the reason I'm willing to pay you money is not because you're doing the projects, because I trust you. Right? That's the value. Good. The value often is trust. Because you got people coming in and out of your house, and you don't know, taking advantage of. But if you trust the person, you'll pay almost any amount of money because you want them to do it.
So getting back to the marketing piece of it, when I'm attracting, what am I giving away? That's kind of where I get stuck too. Am I giving away first up front, that kind of free education up front?
Yeah, that's kind of what you guys are doing now. It's giving it free education up front, which builds the trust, right? So right now, because I've spent years giving you guys free information, right? If I wanted to, I could probably offer you guys something for sale, and you would buy it because you trust, right? So which means trust is a valuable asset, right? If I violate that trust, and then if I lose that trust, then we're done, right? So by you giving away free information over a period of time, people start to trust you, right? And then when you offer them something that may seem more expensive than what they're usually doing, it's like, well, it's Deb. If she says it is true, right?
Yeah, that's what I think about you, Pastor.
Yeah. And so it's a responsibility we have too as marketers, that we're developing trust with people. We got to make sure we sell them stuff that's trustworthy. So,
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so we got the question here in the chat. How do you get comfortable with asking the customer to purchase a high-priced product or service, close to cash model? I may not be able to afford my own product, so sometimes I get stuck. Okay, yeah. So one thing I learned about this: sometimes the thing that you're selling, you're not the customer, right? You're not the customer, right? So if you're not the customer, right, you sell the product for what the value is worth to your customer, right? So that's kind of how I want y'all to think about this, right? So which means that this, I wish I could pronounce her name right, Jahili. I'm sorry about that, guys. But so let's say they're selling a house. They build a house, they flip houses, right? They may not be able to afford to live there, but their customers can. So they can say, hey, this house is $1 million with a straight face, because they know the buying power of the customer they're going after, right? And so sometimes the problem we do is we price our products and service at what we can afford, and that's a mistake, right? God may be calling you to price your products and service at the price your customers can afford, right? That's the question. What can your customers afford, not what you can afford, right? And then once you realize that if your customers can afford it and you're bringing value to them, it's a win-win situation, right? It's a win-win situation, right? And that's how sometimes we overprice stuff sometimes too, right? Because we can afford it, it doesn't mean our customers can afford it, right? And it goes in both directions, right? So that's why we start with, before we talk about price, I want to know who's your customer and what can your customer afford, not what you can afford. Because if you do based on you, you may over or underprice it. Does it make sense? I can see you shake your head. Yep. Okay, guys. All right. So how do we know what our customers can afford? That's what you do. That's what you do the market research, right? In this particular market, what are people usually paying for stuff like this? What are the type of people that usually buy stuff like this, right? That's where that research goes in, right? The people that buy a Starbucks coffee at $5, $6, what are those types of people? What do they like to do? You know, what kind of car they like to drive, right? Because a $5 Starbucks coffee could be too expensive for somebody, for a certain demographic. So that's why you got to understand, like, who is your customer, right? And so, and you got to get that, like, who is your customer, right? Because you know who your customer is, you're literally selling the wrong thing to the wrong person. If I go back to Dave Ramsey, remember, he's working with people who's in debt. And if he said, hey, I'm going to charge you $10,000 to get you out of debt, that makes no sense. Like, dude, I'm below zero. I can't afford $10,000, right? You know, so that's why you got to understand who your customer is and what's their mindset. So the more you know your customer, and your customer may not be you, the better it is to price it for them. The better it is to price it for them. All right, good stuff, guys. All right, so what we're gonna do is, oh, okay, go ahead, Deb. Then we'll take a break. Your hand came back up. Oh no, okay. All right, guys, let's take like a break, like a 5-minute break, and we'll come back. And when we come back, I'm gonna be talking about how do you persuade people to buy stuff. That's what we do when we come back. So let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll come right back. Hey guys, we get started in about a minute. Thank you guys for joining me today. We usually don't go into the nuts and bolts in church entrepreneurs, but I felt we need to go back down to the base level. All right, guys and ladies. Okay, let's get back at it. All right, my sound's good. Coming back is Wave. Is that true? You can hear me? All right, thank you. All righty. Go ahead and hit share. Share screen. All righty. So, all right, what we're going to talk about is persuasion framework. So look at a definition here. Let's define this as the art of persuading someone to determine if buying your product or service is right for them, right? So this is part of the sales process. How are we going to persuade people to determine if buying the product or service is right for them, right? However, before you start the conversation to try to persuade somebody, here's some things I want to caution you about. First thing is, I want you to create a sales trigger before you start persuade somebody. What a sales trigger is a trigger that helps people decide sooner than later if they're going to buy what you're selling, right? Somebody say, well, there's only a limited number of seats on the airplane, so you need to buy it now, right? That helps you make a decision sooner. The concert is selling out fast, you need to act now. That's a trigger. It triggers the sale process. If you buy before this date, you can get it at 50% off. That's another sales trigger, right? And so what these sales triggers do is that they kind of helps people come to a decision sooner than later. They may decide they don't want it, but at least you know that, oh, if I don't make a decision about this particular thing, then I'm going to lose out on something, right? And that creates a sales trigger, right? I mean, it's almost like salvation. You need to make a decision before you die, right? At some point, the trigger's going to be pulled, right? So the next thing is you need to sell yourself. There's a lot of people that's trying to sell products and services they just don't believe in, or they haven't really fully convinced themselves of the value that it has to offer. So if you haven't convinced yourself of the product or service, you can't sell other people, right? And so, and let me just, I'm not trying to pick on the network marketing industry, but I just wanted to just share it as an example that I think in network marketing, the reason a lot of people don't make money there is that a lot of people aren't truly convinced of the value of what they're selling yet, right? So anytime you're not sure if what you're selling has real value, you don't sell hard enough. You don't sell with the right level of passion because you're not truly convinced that this thing has the value or does what it says it can do, right? So before you can actually sell somebody your product or service or persuade them, you got to convince yourself first that what you're selling is good for them and it works. That sounds simple, but you'd be surprised how many people not really sold themselves yet on what they're selling yet. Well, not God told them to do it or not told them, they just haven't sold themselves yet. And that's why a lot of people that they don't evangelize with salvation sometimes too. It's like they're still struggling themselves in their own belief, like, is this thing real or not, right? And so if you're still struggling, it's gonna be hard for you to convince other people that this thing is real. The third thing I want you to do before you start a persuasion conversation, you need to establish some form of credibility with the person you're trying to sell it to, right? And without some kind of prior credibility with your potential customers, they're not going to buy from you, right? If we go to that example of we're looking at Arlene, if some guy named John comes up to her and say, "Hey, will you marry me?" There's no context there. There's no prior credibility there to even have that conversation yet, right? So you want to make sure that you've done something to establish credibility before you make the ask. So we go back to the example Deb was talking about. She's doing these monthly workshops with financial literacy and Christian entrepreneurship. So what she's trying to do is, and what she's really doing, she's establishing credibility. And so the more credibility she establishes, the easier the conversation becomes when she tries to sell something to them. And so the same thing when Nicole was talking about too, with her content, with Christian content, that established credibility with her buyers, that, she knows what she's talking about, right? And so whatever you can do to establish credibility before you start having the sales conversation, the better. It makes the process go that much easier. All right, so those are the three things I want you to be cautious of before you start the conversation. All right, now let's talk about the framework. So this framework I got from Ray Edwards. Some of you guys may have heard of Ray Edwards, but several years ago, he came with this framework called the Pastor Framework. It was a process to write sales copy that would persuade somebody to either buy or not buy. And ever since I heard that framework, I felt this really, really is a good thing to share with people about here's a good systematic way of writing sales copy to persuade somebody to buy. So the first thing you want to start off with is you need to identify the problem that your product or service is intended to solve. You got to identify it, right? It's like, are you broke? Do you need more money tomorrow? Or you can't pay your rent? It's like you're trying to identify what problem are people having. Has contractors taken advantage of you in the past? You can't get your product finished? Have you invested money and only lost money, but you can't trust the people you're investing money with? So you want to try to identify the problem that the person's having. It helps you, it lets them know that you understand what they're going through, right? Second thing is you want to amplify. And amplify simply means you want to stress the consequences of what would happen if you don't solve the problem, right? You got this leaking basement and it's driving you crazy, but because you can't trust people to fix it, if you let the problem goes on, eventually your whole house is going to crumble. So basically what you're doing is you're amplifying the problem like, hey, look, guys, Jesus is real. If you don't get saved, at some point you're going to die and go to hell. Right? Like you're kind of amplifying like what happens if you don't fix this issue right now, right? And then what you want to do is you want to tell a story. You want to tell a story of somebody who had the same problem they're having and share how they solved it with a similar solution, right? You're not talking about your thing just yet, but you want to kind of share, here's how they solved that problem with something similar to what you're doing. You want to tell a story. Because remember, people remember stories and not facts. They remember stories, right? Some of the stories you tell yourselves about your childhood is probably not true, but you remember the stories of the childhood, but not the facts of what actually took place sometimes, right? After that, what you want to do is give a testimony, right? You want to have somebody that's used your product and service, and you want to articulate the results that that person received from your product or service, and just kind of give them a real life testimony like, man, this person did this with my stuff, and this is what happened. I give a real testimony. And then after the testimony, you want to present it with an offer. You want to describe to them exactly what you're offering for sale. Be specific now at this point. Now, before this point, we weren't specific yet about what we're doing. But now at this point, say, hey, now let me tell you here's what I'm offering. Here's what's for sale. And here's the critical last part of this response. Ask the customer to buy with a sales trigger. If you buy this thing by next week, this time, I'll give you X. Or if you don't do it by this time, this will happen. But you want to give them some type of response, like, hey, I need you to make a decision now. Do you want this or not? And then you want to give them step-by-step instructions of what to do next to actually get the thing that you're trying to offer them. So let's go over that again, make sure we're on the same page. And so this is a framework, right? So you really want to nail and identify that problem that you're trying to solve, right? That's why when I was talking to Dev, like, if you don't know what the real problem is, everything else doesn't work out really well, right? So what is that problem that they're having? You want to put words to what they're feeling so you can identify the problem. Then you want to amplify it, like, hey, if you don't solve this thing, here's what happens if you don't solve this thing. And then you want to tell a story. Let me tell you a story of a person named John. This is what John did in a similar situation to you, and this is how they did. This is how they solved this particular problem, right? Now, some of you guys think, well, I sell a product and maybe it's just a luxury item. You still can do the same framework, right? You can do the same framework where you're selling a car, coaching, or whatever. You can just tailor it for what you're doing. And sometimes this happens in the written word, like you're writing out a sales copy, or sometimes it happens just in your conversations with people, right? Sometimes it happens you create a video discussing these different parts of it, right? It can happen in various different ways, but it has the same aspect of this process. So let me tell you about the problem. Let me tell you what happens if you don't do it. I tell you what, if you ever watch a medical drug commercial on TV, they do this well, right? Are you suffering with this? If you don't fix this bad thing is going to happen. But if you do fix it, here's all these smiling people, what happened later, right? Go tell your doctor you need this, right? They give you a very specific thing. Go tell your doctor you need this. They give you a very specific response, right? So then you go to the testimony section, right? Here's what happened with people who use my product. Boom, 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 boom. This is what I'm offering you to buy. Boom, 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 boom. And then here's how you buy it. Buy it now by this date, and you'll get this extra benefit, or you'll get this reduction in price, some type of trigger. All right. All right. So let's talk about this a little bit. Give me some thoughts on this, or some questions about this. So this is the persuasion framework, how we persuade people to buy. Go ahead, Arlene.
Okay, so I'm thinking as I'm hearing you talk about this, like the testimony part, I'm thinking, wait, how can I give a testimony to my services to other agents? But then I was remembering in the past, so does it matter like if it was the most recent, like, well, I mean, it's been over time. So over time for different, like say top producing agents who have like 20 or more sales going at a time, in order for them, their thinking is in order for them to continue to, you know, get more sales, that they can't be bothered with all the paperwork, with all the back and forth signatures, with all that negotiating of repairs and a transaction. So then I would do all that for them. So I could then make a testimony about, I'm thinking like, put down, okay, because I handled all of this for that agent, it allowed him to go out and get more sales. It freed him up, his time up. Is that a testimony?
That's a testimony. So what you did was you identified the problem first, right? You're saying, well, all this paperwork caused you to get bogged down, and you get bogged down, you get stressed, you don't have time to see clients because you're still trying to do paperwork. You know, you're missing deals, you're missing appointments. So basically you're identifying the problem they're having, right?
Okay, yes. I like the way you said it. Can you send me a recording?
Well, this is recorded, right? So
okay.
Yeah,
we're gonna have this recording later.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So you see how you're identifying the problem, right? And then you amplified the problem a little bit, like, hey, if you don't get this paperwork thing stressed out, eventually you can probably go out of business as a real estate agent, because if you're not seeing clients, you're not making money. If you spend all your time doing all this paperwork, you're gonna be losing projects to other people who are not, right?
Yes.
right? Then you tell a story. Let me tell you about John. John had the same problem. He had all his paperwork. And then what he decided to do, that he needed to get somebody to do this for him, to get this off the plate and allow him to free his time up. And then you'll go in with your story like, hey, I have a service just like this. I helped Sally. Sally was bought down to, I helped Sally get organized, and Sally was able to close 3 or 4 houses additional per month. Right?
Sounds good.
And if you want me to help you make more money in real estate by taking the time, getting your time back, then go boom, 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 boom by this date, and I'm offering a 1 month free or something.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Arlene. Other questions or comments about this section? Go ahead, Polly. Cherry Polly. From Canada, I think.
Hi there.
How you doing?
Good. And this is the first time I'm on any of your programs. But
okay, thanks for joining.
Yeah, I do receive all your emails and so forth. So I really appreciate what you're doing, and may God continue to bless your ministry. It's incredible ministry. So I try very much to share it all the time because it brings great value to me. So when you were speaking just now about telling your story and testimony, I always thought your story and testimony is the same. So you just gave me the best explanation about telling your story. So then it popped in my head about, okay, well, my story, just for example, I mean, it happened for real, but I'm just giving you an example and let me know if I'm right about it.
Okay, go ahead.
Part of my story is, okay, years ago, I had, hold on, I can put on my video now because I'm done eating. So years ago, I got into a car accident, right? And the doctor kept prescribing me all these different medication, which I didn't like. So I started to do a bit of investigation, what I can do, you know, instead of using all these different drugs that have side effects on it. But anyway, someone introduced me to a different type of herbal product. I won't name it on here, but anyways, I started using this product and it's helping me. So then I found a website here in Canada and I started using it myself. So then I was able, you know, to get healing from it. I'm still using it probably for the rest of my life. And so now I start telling people this testimony. So now I have a clear understanding of about, okay, your story and then the testimony. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah. And so your story and your testimony, and then makes it more powerful, you tell other people's stories too. So right. It's like you're not an anomaly. So it's not just me. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, other questions or comments about this section of persuasion? And persuasion is not a bad thing, guys. Jesus was persuasive all the time. You know, when he was talking about the kingdom, you know, because God's heart was people to get saved, right? It's hardest for people to get into the kingdom, get in a right relationship with God. And so Jesus was very persuasive with his words about what he was offering to people, right? And so if we really believe in what we're doing and the value of what we're doing, we want to offer it to the right people because we know we can help them. We know our products and our services are good for them. And it'll help them solve that problem that they're dealing with, right? It'll get that, even meet that desire that they didn't know they had for certain things, right? And this is where we got to convince ourselves too, right? It's where we got to convince ourselves. Because if we're not convinced, it's not going to be as strong. The sales process is going to be weak, and people are going to be able to tell it. They're going to be able to tell it, right?
I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It's Candace. I'm on my computer. It's a little old, so I don't have a hands up icon on this one, but my phone is dead.
Okay, no problem. Go ahead.
So I have a conundrum, let's just call it, where so I'm doing some coaching, and just in the beginning stages of it, I am or will be coaching leaders, pastors, entrepreneurs. The Lord showed me to do this. Leaders are drawn to me. I'm like a safe space for them.
All right.
My hindrance is more so, most people that come to me have a lot more experience than I do.
Okay.
20 years in business, 30 years as a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a battle of kind of what you mentioned, where it's like, do I have a passion? I have a passion because God told me to do it.
Okay.
Not something that I just had a burning desire to do.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to telling stories, maybe I'm just in the beginning stages. I did go ahead and get my life coaching certification. I wonder if I need any more certifications. And of course, in the kingdom, people say you don't need certifications. God, or calls you and He draws you. And I don't have the exact experience of actually charging, but literally, like, most of my friends are entrepreneurs, and God just gives me, and that's just part of the prophetic apostolic, where God gives me ideas, and He'll tell me how to handle a certain thing, but I don't have a set system as if I went to school for business administration or coaching, consulting. So I think that's probably unique, and I want to pose myself as someone who's qualified, but I think I'm struggling with that, as far as it's like ministry, but it's business, and just that merging. So I don't know if you're going to cover that, but kind of where it comes to this is like, okay, the story is, I know a few people that was able to come to me. I don't know. I'm just trying to process it, because a lot of answers that I've had, it came from the prophetic, or God just sharing, telling me how to, to give someone an answer.
Okay.
But to sustain that, or group coaching, I'm just trying to process that.
Okay. Let me ask you the fundamental question. What problem are you solving?
So a lot of leaders are struggling. What I find as I'm talking to these leaders, they started out with zeal and passion, and then it becomes more managerial and task and ABC, listing things off, as opposed to doing it from just that heart-centered leadership. They become just, the boss or the manager.
Okay.
And not leading the people, and they're getting tired and overworked, and they really need to delegate. That's a whole nother situation.
Okay.
But my thing is getting them back to the heart and core of who they are. The problem that I would solve is them spending more quality time with their families, being able to rest, because a lot of leaders feel a lot of pressure, and pastors are committing suicide, or just disengaging, or doing it for the check now, because their teams aren't really believing in them, or just issues. So that's where I kind of come in and remind them of who they are, and remember the reason you started. And so that's
so Candace, can I say that the problem is that leaders has lost their passion for what they started?
Yes.
Okay. And so since leaders has lost their passion from what they started a while ago, you're going to come in with a solution to help them regain that passion?
Yes.
Okay.
So I guess I can't give them the passion, but more so remind them of why they started.
Okay. So your solution is to remind them why they started, right?
Yes.
And so by you reminding where they started, your assumption is that's going to help them reignite their passion.
Yes, hopefully.
Okay, so you see what I'm saying?
The heart.
All right. So this is where it's hard, right? Because you're not quite convinced yet. You see. So like you're still kind of wavering a little bit about what actually works.
Right, because each person is different, and the Lord is showing me that some of the people that are coming to me are not Christian, so it's like, okay, so I'm talking about Jesus, and it's like, wait a minute, when I go to a 7-Eleven, I don't know if they're Christian who started the, the gas station, but I know that when I need to go there, I go for those particular reasons. So just trying to get the core of this coaching program and how to
so if you help leaders regain their passion, right? You need leaders who've been at it for a while, which means they're going to have more experience by definition.
Yes.
Right. You're not trying to tell them how to be better leaders. So you're not saying, I've got 30 years in business experience to help you be better leaders.
Right.
What you're saying is, I have experience in helping leaders regain their passion.
Yes.
Right. They're not coming to you for business advice. Right.
Correct.
Right. They're coming to you because they've lost their passion. Right.
Yes.
And they want to get it back. Right. And so they see you as somebody who can help them get their passion back.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And for each individual person, how they get their passion back may be a different prescription, but the solution is you.
Yes.
Right. So it's you and the Holy Spirit working individually with this particular leader to help them regain their passion, or God could show you a process that could help a group of leaders go through it together and help regain their passion.
Yes, correct.
Correct. All right. So your value that you're offering to leaders who have experience in business or ministry, who are struggling because they've lost their passion, and because they lost their passion, a lot of things in their life is probably starting to break down. There's a lot of depression, unhappiness, not feeling satisfied, maybe feeling lost. So these are things you're amplifying now, right?
Yes, correct.
And now you're saying that you're gifted to take these seasoned leaders and help them regain that fire they once have, so they can energize their mission, energize their family, their lives, and just get things back on track, right? And take them to a higher future, right?
Yes, correct.
All right. And so what you're doing is, you're doing this as a coach. So you're going to charge these leaders a lot of money to do this.
Are you asking?
I'm telling you, probably.
Oh, okay.
Especially their seasoned leaders, right? All right. So especially they've been doing this for a while. They should be in they should have some financial wherewithal to drop 10,000 on you to fix this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Right. Because in this particular space, if you don't charge enough, they may not believe you know what you're doing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so tell me what your thoughts on this?
You hit it on the nail. I think what I'm trying to bring together is just that kingdom marketplace, right? So just going out using, the God-given abilities, and, into the marketplace, and putting a price on it. Like you said, it's just about what they can afford. All I know is this is what I've been doing, but I didn't have a curriculum or anything like that. It's literally led. And I guess that's where the leeway comes in with the coaching, because it's going to be on a one-on-one basis unless it's group, so I don't have to have a step 1 through 10, because people are in different places. And just a matter of, I guess, getting a gauge of where they are and then kind of starting from there. Exactly. And they don't care if you don't have a quick curriculum or not. They just want to help. Yes. Right. And so I got a comment from Pamela, like, what gives the credibility? So Candace, in your case, right, where does your credibility come from? That's interesting. That's where I've been trying to what I've been trying to process, because like I said, the people that I speak with literally have masters or doctorates in theology, or like I said, or just had the work experience of 20 years in business. And it's literally the prophetic. I can't explain it any other way. God will give me, like, they'll really be, and we're just in casual conversation. They're like, I'm just trying to figure out. And I'm like, well, all you have to do is this, this, and this. I don't know why I know this, because I haven't had a business of my own. I will say that I've been in business development for about 10 years. And that's what I do now. But it's not the same scale of owning a business, But Candace, I'm jumping in. Remember, that's not the goal, though. You're not trying to get him business advice, remember? Right, correct. Or are you? So maybe we got to be clear, right? So when you say, I'm saying reignite the fire, right? Yeah. Now, but you're hearing, well, these guys been in business, these ladies been in business, I need to help them with their business. So are you helping their business, or are you helping with them? Reignite the fire? I'm not trying to help them with their business. It's just even so, it's people that I know, but then, you know, they'll come to me, of course, you know, but those who I don't know, you know, like you, Amos, if I came to you and like, oh, I have this program, you're going to be like, well, where'd you come from? Right.
Yeah, like who have you helped? Right.
Right. So maybe I just need a list, some type of testimony of those who I've worked with and kind of just build from that slowly. I haven't worked with them on for us, it's just casual conversation. And literally the reason I'm doing this is because the Lord told me to do it, you know, and that's when it's him, you know, sometimes it's like you have to war with it until it becomes your own, like, okay, I need to do this because now I'm not serving the people I'm called to serve. And that's the pressure under me to move forward.
All right, so I'm gonna ask you a question, Candace.
Yes.
What convicts you to come to my class today?
One, I've been watching you for a while, and I just appreciate what you do. There's definitely a space that people are becoming bolder. You know, believers recognize that they have a purpose and it's time to get moving.
Yeah.
So the fact that you did this, I had a lot to do and I canceled it all so I could be a part of the class.
Okay.
Because I really value who you are as a person.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, keep going, Candace.
Okay. Like I said, it's time for me to get started. Again, it goes back to the prophetic. I just turned 40. The Lord told me that, you know, this is my year of promise and it's time to get started. There's been a grace because I was supposed to do this years ago.
Okay.
And I kind of just put it to the side. And so it's time to just move forward. People keep coming to me and saying, Candace, you're supposed to do the thing. And I'm like, okay.
Okay.
But I need some practical steps, you know, to get started.
So what I want you to notice is that you came to me because I displayed some type of value to you in public that helped you over a period of time trust that you can ask me these questions.
Yes, correct.
Right. So you can do the same thing, right? So some kind of way you have to display your skills of doing this so that the right people can kind of see you in action.
Right.
Right. You know, sometimes that's through you talking on podcasts. Sometimes that's you writing books about stuff like this. But some kind of way you have to display the gift that God's put inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And when you put that on display, you know, Jesus said we shouldn't hide a light under a bushel. Right. So some kind of way you got to take the covering off of you, let your light shine and be confident in what God's put inside of you and go out there and help people. Right. In a public way. Right.
Right. Yes.
And then when people start seeing that, it was like, oh, okay, this Candace Kemp person, she knows what she's talking about. You know, I feel that too, right? I need that help too. But it's going to start with you kind of making that decision call, like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. You convince yourself that God wants you to do it. And then you kind of step out in a public way. And that's when we get into the marketing piece of the puzzle. How are you attracting people to you? Right? How are you warming up people to what you're doing? Right? And there's a lot of ways to do that, right? You could hold free webinars, you could be on podcasts, you can interview people. So there's ways you can do this in the public. You can speak at events where leaders will be at. And a lot of times in this space, you just identifying what you're thinking in their heart and their mind will help you know that you have credibility. Right? So it's like I was watching this randomly last night. I was watching Mary J. Blige documentary. All right. So it was just amazing to me, right? Even though I grew up in her era, I'm a little bit younger than she is, but I grew up in that time frame. I did not realize the impact she had on women in that generation through her music. Right? I was totally oblivious to it. Why? Because I wasn't going through what they was going through. But watching that documentary in her My Life album, because she was able to articulate the pain that women like her were going through, that attracted a whole generation of women to her. She didn't give them any solutions, but she was saying, I know what you're feeling. I'm putting words to what you're feeling. So you literally just putting words to what these leaders are feeling who lost their passion, who are burnt out, you put words to it sometimes, maybe enough credibility itself. Like, man, she understands.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I don't care what degree she has or doesn't have, but she understands me.
Okay. You know, I've done some speaking, and what I can probably do is like take some snippets and put them on a website or something.
Well, before you start thinking about how you're going to do it, think about it in the big picture, how you want to do it in the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
So big picture, how does Candace let people know what she knows? Big picture. Is Candace big picture supposed to be speaking at churches and speaking at conferences? Or is Candace supposed to start a social media profile that talks about this stuff? Or is Candace starting a podcast to do stuff like this? Or is Candace doing YouTube to do stuff like this? So big picture, how is Candace attracting people to her? By putting her talent on display. And then once you figure that out, then we go into low level details. Okay, I'll take a clip here, a clip there. But in general, figure out the big picture first.
Okay.
That makes sense? Yeah. So you can do this. Like what you're doing is you're not saying tell these people I'm gonna help you with business. You know, they can hire someone else to do that. We're not even doing that. It's like, look, they're gonna feel like you're a safe place to drop the mask that they don't know what they're doing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they need.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Candace. All right, guys, any other questions about persuasion or anything before we go into part 5? I want to jump into.
Just a quick question. I just want to know if you have some kind of Facebook group so everyone gets connected.
So I
probably have different businesses, right? So
yeah, I have my own private group. You inside our private group yet? The Church Entrepreneurs private space online.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Are you on us? We have our own private online space at churchentrepreneurs.com/join. So you may be in it already. Did you just join recently to get the link to this event?
Well, no, I got this link because I subscribed to your email. So I didn't realize you have like a Facebook group. So how do I get that?
Well, yeah, it's not on Facebook. It's our own private group space. So if you go to churchentrepreneurs.com, click on either the join tab, the join link, or you just go to churchentrepreneurs.com/join. And you can get into our entire online community space. We have access to all the network of church entrepreneurs.
Okay. All right.
Yep. Yeah. So guys, churchentrepreneurs.com/join. If you're not part of the group, just go there and join it, and you can just connect with us. You get updates and info when we do stuff. Got all our courses there. If you need anything, replays, this going to be there. So everything will be there. All righty. So let's go look at feedback and adjustment. And I'm going to put you guys on mute real quick. All right. Screen share. All right, feedback and adjustment. So what we're going to talk about right now is that this business model we've been talking about, like your concept, your marketing, and your sales stuff, that's the model. But you got to make adjustments from time to time. And you got to do adjustments based on feedback. Let's talk about that. So first thing, you got to keep praying about your business, right? You got to keep praying about what God's placed in your heart. You got to keep checking in and make sure you still have peace about what you're doing, right? That's the first part. You got to keep that going on. The next thing is you got to make sure you're continually educating yourself, learning about your industry, right? So if I go back to Nicole, she's in this industry of helping Christian business people, right? And so there's a space for that. So she needs to learn about this space. How are other people doing it? How they're transitioning from teaching the word to charging money to coaching. So there's people doing this stuff. And so basically what you want to do is educate herself about this industry, right? And then the next thing we need to do is, and then sometimes we skip this step, we need to have conversations with potential clients, right? So if you're thinking about a business, you're thinking about charging money, go find somebody who'll be an ideal client, not your mom and dad and brothers and sister, but people who actually could potentially buy this thing, and tell them about it. Ask them questions about it, and like have conversations with them about this stuff, right? And get their feedback on what you're thinking about. It's not that they're going to change, thus says the Lord, but you want to fill in the gaps of your knowledge about this space. The next thing is you want to talk to other people in your industry. Call out another business coach, call another cake maker or baker and say, hey, let me ask some questions, right? And if they don't want to do it for free, just pay for their time to ask the questions, right? So you want to have conversations with other people in your industry, asking them a question about what they're experiencing, all right? Next, we want to do some experimentation. You know, sometimes believers, we hate experiments, but we got to run some experiments. We need to try out various versions of this business model and see which one makes money, right? Maybe we had the wrong problem. Maybe we had the wrong customer we're trying to go after. Maybe we had the wrong price, right? Maybe we're using wrong words to persuade people, but try out different things. And to try it out, the only way you can know if it's work is somebody actually pays you money for it, right? So which means that you got to sell something. So here's some examples of what you could do. You could run some Facebook ads to a sales page that asks people to pre-buy something, right? Even though you don't have the thing created yet, but run some ads and see if people actually pre-buy it based on the description you said it was, right? And then they'll give you some feedback. Or maybe you can build like a minimal version or mini version of what you're trying to build and sell that, right? So maybe you want to set up a jumpy place for kids. Instead of buying a jumpy place for kids, why don't you go rent a space and get some inflatables in there and see if people will come and do it. See what you think about it, right? So you don't have to put out a huge commitment, but maybe you go and do some small thing, test it out to see if it works. And then maybe you can play around with that customer profile. Maybe you got the wrong customer, right? Maybe instead of middle-aged women, maybe it's 20-year-old guys. You know, maybe play around with your customer profile. Switch up your sales copy, persuasion framework. All this requires you to, if people are willing to pay you money for a thing, it gives you a feedback point, right? If they're not willing to pay you money for it, it tells you they don't want it. It means that something needs to be adjusted and changed, right? It doesn't mean that you're in left field and out of the wrong game, just that maybe parts of the game need to adjust, right? Did you enjoy it, right? There's a lot of people that do businesses, they just don't enjoy, right? So you got to ask yourself, hey, I did this business, I performed this service, I sold this product. Did you actually enjoy that, right? Because, you know, I believe that whatever God's called us to do, there's a level of enjoyment in it. And if we're not finding enjoyment in it, sometimes God may not be in it, right? So we got to find some level of enjoyment doing what we're doing, right? And then the last thing I want to say is profits, right? Are the profits kind of what you need, right? Is this really making enough money for your life? You know, if it's not, maybe not charging enough money for what you're doing, or maybe it's too expensive for what you're doing, right? So you got to ask that real question, right? If God's calling you to business, he's called you to make money from it, right? Not to be broke from it, right? Let's look at some don't do's. And these don't do's are what I'm saying, don't do this stuff until you're really solid on your concept. You're solid on the problem, solution, the customer, price. So don't go buy business cards. Don't do that. Don't even build a website. Don't take these glamorous headshots. I've seen a lot of that. People start a business, they think they want to call a photographer, right? Don't take any headshots yet. Don't even try to get a business bank account yet. Don't worry about that yet. Definitely don't get an office space and set up office shop somewhere. And don't even try to incorporate yet, right? The reason I say don't do stuff like this is because you're still not sure yet what the thing is, right? So until you're sure what the thing is, these other things are distractions. These other things are just time wasters, right? You may make business cards, but now you want to change the name, right? Now you change your service, right? You got a bank account, but you have no money coming in, right? You're just paying fees, right? You got this office, but you got no clients, right? You got these nice glamorous headshots that make you feel good, but it's not making you money, right? So what I want you to do is take the trappings of business and don't get the trappings of business until you're sure about what you're doing. you go get, let's pause right there. Let's take on this stuff before I go on a few sections here. Anybody got any part of it?
I have a question. It's Suzette. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Suzette.
Okay, so
Yes,
when you
ma'am.
say,
Can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you. When you say unsure, you like, can you kind of define that more? Is it, you know, like you said, I guess if you're unsure about the name or exactly what service you're going to do, then don't do those things.
Yeah.
But you have the name, you have the service, but maybe some of the other little areas of the business, of your business plan is a little shaky. Is it okay to go ahead and do a website? Or, I mean, like, what do you consider sure? I guess that is my question.
If you have not had at least 1 or 2 clients from it, I wouldn't go do that stuff yet.
Okay.
Right, because you don't know some things yet, right? Sometimes you don't know what it is until you actually done the thing. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Okay.
Yeah. And then once you do the thing 1 or 2 times, you say, okay, I'm good. I like this. Let me go ahead and get that website. Let me go ahead and get those big. Let's go ahead and do this.
And then, and then the other piece is, I've, you know, listened to some of your other, where you talked about marketing, like you were saying, basically you should market before you start. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well, yeah, sometimes what I'll say is that before you go out and spend all this money on building the thing, try to market people to go buy the thing first, like a pre-sale, right? And so that lets you know if there's any people want it. I've seen people do this even with software development. What they'll do is before they go out and build this app or something, they'll see if people want to pre-buy it. If people pre-buy it, then they'll make it.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Hey, is my audio?
You're going in and out, but I don't know if it's me because I am in my kitchen. Sometimes the audio is not very good.
Yeah, it's coming in and out, Amos.
It's coming in and out?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me check something. I'm just checking my internet connections here, speed. Yeah, this is real low. Okay. Is this going in and out? What are y'all hearing?
I mean, it's okay. It's just, you know, it's just you breaking up just a little bit for me.
Yeah, it's good. It sounds better.
Okay. Y'all let me know if I'm breaking up. And if I'm breaking up, I may have to do a hard restart on a network.
And again, the reason why I kind of asked that question is because before I connected with your ministry, I actually had connected with the University of Georgia here in Georgia. They have a small business association component where they work with small businesses, and it's you know, free consultation.
All right, guys, I'm gonna have to.
You can't hear me? Okay.
Hey, Suzette, let me go. Yeah, hold on. I think let me go do a hard reset, guys. So like, if this, it's going to cut out temporarily, and then it'll probably come right back in. Okay.
Okay.
Everybody hear me? Thumbs up. Y'all hear that? Okay. All right. Let's take a 5-minute break. It may cut out, but come right back in. Okay, in like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Xavier, did you? Oh, sorry.
Okay, guys, let's do an audio check. What do you guys hear?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. All right. I had to change rooms in the house. Got a hard wire here. It's okay. All righty. So let me. So Suzette, you still there, Suzette?
Yes, I am. I'm still
Okay.
here.
All right. Sorry about that, guys.
No, you're fine.
All right. So Suzette, so what you were saying is that we was talking about you doing it 1 or 2 times, and we was talking about marketing before you actually build a thing, right?
Correct.
And so this ideal is that basically what you want to do is before you go out and build the full apparatus for the thing that you're trying to do, try to get clients to pay for it first.
Okay.
If you get clients to pay for it first, then you go out and build out all the parts and pieces of it.
Okay.
That's kind of the goal. What I'm trying to get towards.
What I was telling you is that I had done before I got connected to your ministry. I actually had met with a career counselor, or a business manager. I don't know how to say it, but anyway, I met with a counselor, or a consultant through UGA, Small Business Association. And then he sent me like a whole list of things that I needed to do. And one of the things was name your business, basically pay, through the state of Georgia for your name, bank account, get a IEN number. So it's like the first 10 steps, and I was thinking, and I would start looking for bank accounts, and I'm like, man, it's kind of hard to find a bank account that doesn't charge.
Yeah, you're gonna pay. You're paying like $50 a month for that bank account, probably.
Yeah. So I had that in my mind as far as, okay, I needed to do these 10 steps, before I move forward and actually kind of initiate, before I start getting clients and all that. So you clarified that. Thank you. So I don't feel as stressed.
Yeah. Good stuff, Suzette. All right, guys. So let's go into this next phase here. Hit share screen. Alrighty. Okay, can you guys still see my screen? Is Wade, yes, no? Yep, okay.
Yep.
Good.
I think we should do number 6 first.
Did I miss numbers? This is number 6, right? Yeah, we did this.
Okay, okay, I missed that, sorry.
No problem, Nicole. Yeah, so now we're gonna do number 7, which is doable and measurable goals. All right, so what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna give you a organized structure how to approach this business model, which part you should do first. So first things first, Proverbs 13:12 says, hope deferred maketh the heart sick, but when the desires come, it's a tree of life, right? So what this means is that it's a couple things. One, if you set a goal, you don't make it, you'll get depressed. That's the first thing it means, right? If you got these things you're trying to do, got these desires that never seem to happen, it really make you depressed at some point. So which means that we do need to set goals, but we need to set some goals that actually are in reach when we first get started versus trying to set, like, a lot of people say, hey, I want to start this business at the end of the year, I'll make $1 million. And my question is, like, you just getting started. Why are you gonna make $1 million by the end of the year, right? There's gotta be patience, like through faith and patience, receive the promises, right? So what I'm gonna give you guys is a process of setting goals that are doable, measurable, and they increase in difficulty as you go along, right? So let's get at it. So first goal is, with your new business or restart of your business, I want you to set a goal to either make 10 transactions or $1,000. That's going to be your goal. 10 transactions or $1,000. And so until you make 10 transactions or $1,000, this is the place where I say, don't get into like your business accounts, your websites, your business cards until goal 1 is met, right? Don't do that until goal 1 is met. Goal number 2 is 100 transactions or $10,000. That's goal number 2. Now at goal number 2, this is where I do want you to start getting your business account and websites and stuff like that up at goal number 2. Goal number 3, 1,000 transactions or $100,000. That's goal number 3. Of course, goal number 4 is not on here, which is $1 million, but you know, I think I like 3s. So we start with 3s. And so now based on these 3 goals, let's show you how this maps to our business model. So for goal number 1, when you try and do 10 transactions or $1,000, I want you only to focus on the problem, solution, customer, price, and your words you do on persuasion. Just those 5 things. Don't worry about marketing. Don't worry about repeat customers. Just work on what's your problem, what's your solution, who's your customer, how much you're charging, and what words are using to persuade people, right? So what this looks like is, if I take Suzette, for example, this looks like Suzette literally just finding 10 people to sell her service to, or if her service costs $1,000, just finding 1 person to sell her service to, right? And through the process of doing this first goal, you'll get a lot of feedback based on a lot of stuff, right? If you can do 10 transactions, you're going to learn, okay, maybe the problem wasn't the right problem. Maybe I don't have the right solution, or maybe I didn't have the right customer. Maybe I didn't charge enough money for what I was doing, right? So before you get ingrained in that this is what it is, I want you to focus on just goal number 1, 10 transactions or $1,000, right? And then when you're done working on that, just worry about the concept of the business and worry about the persuasion part of it. Don't get all trapped. Okay, I got to run a marketing funnel. I got to do this. I got to get a sales page. I got to do all. Don't worry about all that stuff yet. You just focus on the concept first, which means that your customers are probably coming from you just having conversations with people and asking them to buy your stuff. And that one-on-one conversation is really going to help you craft your sales conversation. Next thing is goal number 2. Now, once you got 10 transactions or $1,000 under your belt, then I want you to bring in your marketing efforts. I want you to work on your attraction strategy and your nurturing strategy, right? And those are the only 2 new things I want you to add in for goal number 2. All right, because you've already had 10 customers, right? You made $1,000. When I say made $1,000, like made $1,000, right? And so, which means that now you're going to attract more people to you, and how you nurture people that's come to you. You want to work on that to get your first $10,000, right? Or 100 transactions. And notice all this is doing, each goal is giving you more and more experience with the ideal itself, and giving you milestones to make yourself feel good that you're moving along the process here, right? The third goal is 1,000 transactions or $10,000. And at this point, I want you to add in, how do you get referrals and how do you get repeat business? Then I want you to focus on that part of it. So it's really at goal 3 is where you got a fully fleshed out business model where you're really working on all 9 components. But when you're first getting started, if I go back, I only want you to work on these 5 components when you first get started. So we don't want to get bogged down too much. We want to do things in stages, right? After you worked on these first 5 components, we add in 2 more components. We're working on our first 100 transactions or $10,000, right? Then once we get that down, then we start working on the referrals and repeat stuff. So let's stop and let's talk about this for a second. Any thoughts on this?
So okay. So
yes,
in my case, since I'm dealing with lactation, how do I get my first customer?
How much are you going to charge? You know how much you want to charge your first customer?
We kind of talked about this before. I'm thinking about 150 to 200 is like the going rate.
Okay.
So
and that's like per hour, right?
It's about an hour and a half.
Okay.
You don't want to go much,
okay,
longer than that.
So this is where you're gonna have to just have one-on-one conversation with moms they're expecting.
Okay.
Some kind of way you need to go somewhere that's not a conflict of interest where you currently work at, and ask moms who are about to, or who had a baby or about to have a baby, tell them about your services and ask them to buy it.
And lactation is helping moms breastfeed.
Yeah. So
helping women who want to breastfeed their baby breastfeed.
Yeah. Yeah. So, which means that you just got to ask for the business directly, right? Because like these women probably don't know they're gonna have problems after the baby's born, right? I'm assuming, right?
No, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
So they already having problems. So which means that, because like right now in 2021, social media is like direct access, asking people, right? So you can post something on social, you can DM somebody directly who you may think needs your support. You can ask your network or your families and friends, say, hey, who do you know who's having issues? Here's tell them about my services. All right.
Okay.
So this is where I call this the hand-to-hand comeback of business, where you're directly going after people who could be your clients, asking for the business.
Okay. Okay.
That makes sense, Suzette?
It does.
Yeah.
It's just I have all these other things that I was like, worried about, and then you're kind of like crunching it down to just. But thank you.
Yeah. So this is the part I say I don't want people to get too fancy with this first step. Right. Just go ask people to buy your stuff at this point. Right. And this is not the best way to do it in terms of a long-term business strategy, because it is kind of fast sometimes. But this strategy allows you to get that first set of customers just so you can make sure this is what you want to do. Right. Because we don't want to create an expensive marketing attraction strategy for something we're not quite sure we want to do yet. All right. Other questions or comments about this? All right, go ahead, Arlene.
Okay, so like for me, this is not like completely starting from scratch. So I actually do have a plan already to have a picture taken with a photographer. And I actually did make more than $1,000 this month.
Okay, all right. So, you passed that goal. Okay.
So I passed that goal. But I do definitely need to get things in order, because from the beginning, it just kind of started off like, well, I mean, it just kind of started off as like a little side thing, and then it just kind of grew. And then like, I guess as I did as some realtors were impressed with what I did for them and helped them, they told other realtors. And so then it kind of started like, and that's why now like people are getting referred to me. But this has been over time. This is not like right away, you know, like, so, but I didn't really, I wasn't really thinking of it as a business at the time when I was doing it. I really was thinking about it as this very temporary thing. My son was still in school. I wanted to focus on him more than real estate sales, since real estate sales do take a lot of time. And so that was my thinking, was like, when he's done with school, I'm going to jump back into real estate sales. But even though I have, like, he just finished school in 2020. So that, like, my mindset was in 2020, actually, the beginning of 2020 was, let me go after real estate sales. And then COVID hit and shut everything down, including real estate initially. So when the real estate got shut down initially, I didn't even get to start. I had gotten all these magazines. I was going to go like pass them out in my neighborhood and do all these things. I had all these plans, but I was like, okay, God, well, there went all my plans, because real estate was also shut down with everything else. And, you know, nobody wanted you to bring a magazine to their house at that point when everybody was in fear of touching anything someone else touched. So that kind of changed things for me, you know, for a little while, which is what brought me into the homelessness thing. And so I feel like in this Church of Entrepreneurs, like, I'm here for two things. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I feel like, if for one, because real estate is a business, whether I do TC work or sales, I have to construct that, or I have to get it together, you know, like in a business format and plan. And then the other thing is for the homeless ministry. So it's like I have a business and a ministry. And so like today, I feel like it's for the business, business part of making money. So then I could do the ministry, because the ministry, I don't see any money in that, you know, like I can't charge people to teach people.
Yeah, you know, you're going to have other people paying you to go do that. But that takes time to build that up though, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And so, so now, like, through that period of time when, and then of course, real estate eventually opened back up. They said, yes, you can do it, but you couldn't do it full effect. You still can't you couldn't do open houses. They barely opened that up here in California and Los Angeles, Orange County, like, to do open houses. So like there was a lot of things you still couldn't do, even when they said, so that was good for the ones who had existing clients. But if you were just starting back and you had to get clients, that still wasn't helpful, because you still couldn't do the things that you needed to do to get clients.
Yeah, that's true.
For sales. So now I was doing these other jobs, and I was doing some TC work, but I had already announced to the agents I had been helping with TC. I had already announced to them all, I'm going to do sales now. I'm not going to do TC work anymore. So because I had already announced that, I was down to like really like only a few files, which wasn't enough. So I had to then work, which is I ended up working in the homeless industry. But now it's like my TC work is building up again. And that's mostly from referrals. It's not even because I was looking, not because I was trying to get new business. It's just like, so I just think it's God has just like been using this one particular person to like put my name out there. And the good thing is that it's from the brokerage that I have my license hanging with. And all these agents are from the same brokerage. So it streamlines it for me. It's not complicated, because if I was to do TC work for multiple agents from multiple brokerages, which I have done in the past, it gets really complicated to keep track of all the different requirements from every brokerage and all the different systems that they all use.
Okay.
But
so
now
let me jump in for a second, Arlene. So basically, I want you to see from Arlene's story, and there's something I think Holy Spirit dropped in my spirit. What I'm teaching you guys today is not "thus says the Lord," right? It may not happen exactly the way we're kind of laying it out, but what I'm trying to do is kind of give a framework, right? Now, Holy Spirit may adjust it for you individually, because I believe in uniqueness, right? And people may be at different stages of where they are, and they may need to take pieces of the puzzle here, right? So I want you to take what we're offering as a framework, run it through the Holy Spirit filter, right? And say, okay, God, what did I do with this? Right? Where am I at in this process? Right? And then from there, allow this content to be a guide to where God is leading you. Does this make sense? All right, good. Go ahead, Arlene. And then we're going to wrap up the last section.
Okay. So Yeah. So like I said, now that I'm here and realizing just recently that this is a business and maybe this is where I'm mostly supposed to focus, like, yeah, do some sales here and there, but not focus on that too much. I mean, I don't know, I'm still like figuring that out, but as long as the TC work is coming to me and I'm not even like having to market for it, like, why reject it, right? Like, so but
God does that. God does that for ministers sometimes, right? He will bless a business venture where you don't have to do any of this stuff that we're talking about, because that's not the goal of your life, right? Where he'll send you provision for a season so you can have the revenue until the real thing takes off, right? So I've definitely seen God move like that. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. Like I'm kind of like at the point where it's really the pricing that I need to get down, the pricing. So I need to do my testimony and I need to do the pricing.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I'm at. But I am gonna have business cards made and a photo done and business cards made because I'm already
you're at that point. You're at that
point.
Now.
I'm at that point. So yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you.
All right, guys. So let's look at the worksheet here. What you want you guys to look at. Share screen. That's not working. All right, hold on a second. Frozen. All right, so let's look at this worksheet. This is basically just a wrap up of today. So what I want you to do, get a sheet of paper, get a Word doc, or wherever you want to get. And first thing I want you to think about is what category of business you're working in. All right, you may have some noise in the background because I'm downstairs where they're doing some work. Are you in a business that's you're going to be broke? Of course, you don't want to do that. Are you in a close to cash business? Are you in an Apple type business or in a Walmart type business, right? What kind of category would you put your business in? What's your problem? What's the hidden problem someone is having? Just write out what you think that is. Solution. What's your focus solution to that problem? Number 3, who's your customer? Who's able and willing to pay to have that problem solved? Skipped ahead a little bit too much. Let's see here. There we go. Skip too far. Yep. There we go. 4, price. How much you're charging to solve the problem? That's what we talked about. Maybe the base, the stretch, and outrageous pricing. Just knowing the buying power of your customer. Attract. This is the marketing piece. Now, even though we don't really do this part into goal 2, but it's good to think about this. What are you going to give away to attract potential customers? 6, nurture. What's the process to warm up potential customers? 7, referrals. How are you going to encourage people to tell others? 8, this is where we kind of write our persuasion stuff. We're identifying the problem. We're amplifying the effects of not solving the problem. We're telling a story. We're telling testimonies. We're offering exactly what we have for sale, and we're asking people to make a decision to buy. And then number 9 was repeat. How are you going to get customers to buy again? And so pretty much that's what we've been talking about today, is these 9 steps, right? That you can kind of write out, right? And you fill in at the correct pace of where you are. Let's go back a little bit here. So we look at the goals here, right? Look at the 10 transaction goal. We're working on the problem, solution, customer, price, and persuasion. The 10,000 goal, we're adding in attraction and nurture. And then the 100,000 goal, we add in referral and repeat. And so remember, this is just a systematic way of kind of how to process through what you're doing without it being kind of haphazard, right? But here again, with a caveat, remember, we're checking in with the Holy Spirit to guide us through this process. So guys, that's all I wanted to share with you guys today. And we'll take these last 13 minutes just to get any comments or feedback when you ask any questions about some of this stuff. remember, we always run into the Holy Spirit though. All right, go ahead, Arlene. Question.
So I'm thinking like I have a mixed between close to cash and like Apple, because it just depends on, do they want me to work a sales file for them, or that which takes time, or do they just want a quick solution to something and I'm going to charge them for that at that moment, like putting together like what they need for something, but maybe I'm not going to work that file. So I don't know, is that considered an Apple thing or a Walmart thing?
It's still more like close to cash thing. You still got probably a small number of customers, charge them a whole bunch of money. That's kind of how it feels.
Okay.
Yeah. Now you got to be careful in that close to cash, because you easily can go to broke. You got to make sure you are charging your clients enough money for what you're doing. All right, go ahead, Simone.
Thank you, Pastor Amos.
You're welcome.
I had a question about the switching up the sales copy in the persuasion framework. I'm curious just to hear an example of that.
Okay. So hold on a second.
And that's under experimentation. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you want to switch. All right, give me a second. He's hammering downstairs. All right. So when you want to switch up your sales copy, you're thinking about changing something about your business too, right? You're thinking about, okay, well, I was talking about, let's take the contractor position, so that my basement worked on. The contractor could come with this idea that I want to work for people who are single, who have disposable income, and I want to renovate something for them. Right. That could be what I want to do with my persuasion copy. And I'll write copy based on that thing, and I'll do it for that demographic. Or you can say, you know what? I tried one or two of those. I really don't like that. Let me try working with families who got kids that's under 10 and help them build out their first home, maybe. Right. That's like you switching up things, right? You're still in the building space, but you're really just playing around with how you want to do it. And every time you change something, you got to change the copy a little bit, because each demographic is dealing with a different pain point, right? And you kind of offer them a slightly different solution, and you're amplifying certain things. So if I'm talking to a single person doing a house project, I may talk about just you being the envy of your friends, you're setting up for your future family. If I'm talking about with a young family, I say, hey, you building that first home that's going to have memories for your kids. I might be using different wording to kind of express what I'm doing for them.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Mo?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. So we always want to we may not be changing too much what we're doing, but we may want to slightly do it for different types of people, just to kind of experiment like where we're supposed to be at.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions or comments before we wrap up today? All right, I got a question in the chat. When establishing pricing, is there a recommended markup percentage above the 2x cost? I don't have any recommendation above the 2x cost, but when you are planning costs, I want you to make sure you factor in how much it may cost to advertise that product too, right? You may not spend advertising dollars just yet, but like if I gave an example, this water bottle, and I say it costs $10 to make it, maybe it costs me another $3 to advertise it too. So maybe the actual cost is $13, and then the times 2 is not 10 times 10 is times 13 now, right? So you want to make sure you kind of do factor in all the full costs of that product. And then when you go past the times 2 thing, to me, it's really now is about utility versus value. So if we just talking about utility, maybe it's like times like plus $5. But if we're talking about value, maybe it's plus $100 or plus 1,000, right? Because like how much does it cost to coach, right? If we're talking about the coaching industry. But if somebody can change somebody's life, right? How much is that worth to somebody, right? So now we're not talking about utility anymore. We're talking about value. So thanks, Pamela. Well, no, that wasn't Pamela. That was Tammy. Gotcha. Yep. Other questions? I see Pamela in the chat. You're welcome. You're welcome, Pamela. You got about 8 more minutes before we wrap up. So keep it to the. I thought we'd be shorter than 3 hours, but we didn't hit that mark. So we're taking full time. So I would definitely thank you guys for coming. take this as, I'm gonna send out the PDF files of this. So I'm gonna post in our group the replay with the files along, so you guys can have that. But just definitely think about these things, meditate these things, and like I say, use it as a framework. And if I would say what is the most important part, I would say going back to the foundation, like what problem you're actually solving. If we're not really clear on what problem we're actually solving, everything else we do on top of that it's like on sand. So we want to make sure we really kind of know what problem we're actually solving, right? And I do that all the time with the church entrepreneurs. I'm like, okay, what am I really doing here? Make sure I'm clear what am I doing? And that kind of guides the things that I create. Go ahead, Simone.
Thank you, Pastor Amos. I have another question about the mission and vision. This is a question that I've gotten several times. My focus is on, I've mentioned to you, but for context, it's around women's retreats and designing women's retreats. So it's actually speaks to Nicole's question earlier about mixing ministry and business, because I feel the Lord leading me to bring it into a business space, even though clearly it's a ministry. So with that, I've been asked the question, well, what is your mission? What is your vision? And I'm wondering, does that in the framework, would that fall kind of within that solution part, or where would that kind of fall?
So for me, let me tell you how to define mission and vision, because everybody defines these differently, right? So I'll give you my definitions, right? So when I think of mission, I think about what am I doing for the people I'm called to serve, right? So I take the church of entrepreneurs. The mission of the church of entrepreneurs is to equip you guys to be successful in what God's called you to do. That's my mission. It's about you, right? Now, when I talk about vision, it's more of an internal thing. Like, what's the vision of church for entrepreneurs from an organizational standpoint? The vision of church entrepreneurs from an organizational standpoint is to reach like 1 million people with our content, right? Having probably like 100 employees and probably making well over 7 figures in revenue to do it, right? But if I tell Simone that means nothing to Simone. The question is, from a mission standpoint, it's about Simone. From a vision standpoint, it's about us. Like, what are we doing as an organization? So usually I don't tell people the vision of church entrepreneurs, because that's more like what I want to see the church entrepreneurs do. I tell people the mission. And my mission is to serve you to be successful when you're told it. That's the mission. Right. And so that's how I focus on mission. So in my definition of mission comes in solution. Like, the mission is like, what's my solution to fix your problem? Right.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome, Simone. Nicole, you unmuted. You want to jump in?
No, I understood it like this, that the vision and mission is above this business model thing. So it informs the business model. It's really outside this model.
Yeah, it's really outside of this model. Yeah. Other questions, guys? We got a few more minutes. We wrap up. So I know we went over a lot of stuff today, a lot of pieces, a lot of components. So just process it, think about it. And that's why I gave you those three goals, because we don't want to do it all at the same time, do a little bit at a time, and just be patient. The word says through faith and patience, we receive the promises, right? And for some people, patience may be 20 years, right? And some people may be 2 years, right? But it just really depends on what stage of life you're in. And it also depends on where God is taking you. Some of us need more time to develop. Like I said, I spent the first 4 years of my journey kind of in the wrong direction. And so it wasn't until the last 7 years I was kind of more in line where God's called me to do. And every year God adds stuff to it anyway. So I'm learning how to just relax in the journey. I still want certain goals to hit, right? But I'm still learning how to just relax in the journey. So, because every year he's probably going to tell you something else to add to it. But when he tells you to do it, doesn't create confusion. It just create completion, really, more than anything. All right, guys. So if there are no other questions, we'll go ahead and wrap up for the day. Let you guys go back to your Saturday. Some of you guys, morning. Some of you guys is afternoon. Depends on what time zone you guys are in. Yep. Thanks, guys. I see the thanks in the comments. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for everybody for coming. All right, guys. So if you guys, like I say, the content for this is going to be inside our community, churchentrepreneurs.com/join. That's where the community is. And we have the content there for you guys to replay tonight or tomorrow sometime. I'll have the content there. If you guys want to partner with the Church of Entrepreneurs, just go to churchentrepreneurs.com/partner. The reason we do this stuff for free is because partners support the ministry, so we can be a blessing. You guys are charging money for this stuff. So I want to thank you guys. Thank you to the partners for allowing. We got some partners here that allows this stuff to work. So give a shout out to all the partners. All right, guys, you be blessed. And let's close out in prayer. I'll let Deb close out in prayer. Deb Watson.
Oh, it's an honor, Pastor. Thank you for that. And oh, Father God, we just thank you right now for the rest of the day, Lord. We thank you for tomorrow, and we thank you for this coming week, Father God, that you have it all before us. You have it all planned out. And just this morning when I was reading about just basking in your presence and taking those moments just to bask in that presence, Father, you have it all worked out. And before our feet even hit the ground, Father, you've been there. You know what's best for us. And I just ask for us to continue, Lord, in the callings that you've given us, and go ahead and just do what you want to do with our lives, Lord. And we just give you permission right now. We thank you for this community. We thank you for bringing us together, Father. You're the creator of all good things, and you bring all good things to us. And we just thank you and in awe and of everything that you're doing, everything that you've done. And I just thank you for continuing to put Pastor and put those inspiration and the courage and the strength and all of the new ideas, Lord, that as we compete in this compromising culture, Father, that we can live out in boldness and live out in courage of what you've called us to do. And we thank you for the abundance that is coming, Lord. We thank you that we can see that, Lord, that we can give more, Lord, that we can live more, Lord, and that we could just go out and share with those who are in need of your love, Father, and just bless the work of our hands, Father. Help us to execute with our hands, Lord, to hear that still small voice, Father, when you're talking to us, and just to rest and bask in your presence, Lord. And just thank you for this community and everyone that's on here, Father, and help us to continue to spend time with you, Lord, and in the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thanks, Deborah, for prayer. And thank you guys for coming. You guys be blessed. Have a great rest of your Saturday. Talk to you guys later. Be blessed.
Thank you, Pastor Amos.
Thank
It was
you.
amazing.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you guys for coming. You guys be blessed.
Have a good day, everyone. God
Have a
bless.
good day, guys.
Thank you. Blessings, everyone.
Bye, Pastor. Bye, y'all.
All right, guys.